Welcome to the annual FANUC Open House event. We've got an audience online and, of course, everybody here. An event that really, truly showcases the benefits of automation to UK manufacturers. Like I said, we are streaming the whole event live online on the FANUC channels and on MTDCNC channels too. So maybe if you're not here on Friday, as an example, you can still catch up on anything that you've missed out on online. There's a tremendously busy agenda ahead for you that Brooke and the team have all prepared. With today being mainly focused on automation and the outlook of UK manufacturing. Tomorrow, Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. And on Friday, as I'm led to believe, it's all about education, education, and even more education. So we're going to be talking about the future workforce and upskilling of staff. So before we begin, let me fill you in on where you need to be to get the most out of the event across the next 3 days. Up until 12:30 today, you're going to have a mixture of unmissable panel presentations and topics and discussions. We did this last year and it was brilliant. We had involvement online of everyone watching, sending messages in, and then also each of you in the audience, you're there to get your voice heard. If you've got a question, say that maybe you asked years ago or last year or have had on your mind for the past few years, ask that question again and then you'll be able to see how times have changed, how the industry's evolved as well. It's all interactive. We want you to get your voice heard as well and question these, challenge these guys and girls on the stage too. So again, that's whether you're watching online or you're here. At 12:30, of course, naturally, we're going to be hearing all of your tummies rumbling. So lunch will be served. That will be ingrained in your mind as well, 12:30. And so then that's the chance for you to go out into the exhibition area. And you're going to be talking to industry experts. Now, these are the people who are kind of pioneers for the projects that are out in industry. Right here, right now. It's not very often we get all of these people under one roof all together. So use those people, go out there, talk to those people. It's quite exciting as well. There's lots going on. If you're watching online too, between 12:30 and 1:30, the stream will continue, and MTDCNC are going to do a panel discussion with some of the people on the stage, so you can get interactive with them. You can go into more depth if you wish. And then we're going to do a tour for you online of the whole event as well, so you're kind of watching from home and you're part of it too. Then at 1:30, it's a chance for all of you, so we won't be in here at 1:30, you can go and explore, and it's a chance for everyone to kind of practice what they preach, and we'll be seeing first-hand demonstrations of the machines in action, all of the equipment, and go and talk to everybody in the workshop and the showroom too. So, enough of me, let's begin. Let's welcome onto the stage the Managing Director of FANUC UK, Tom Boucher.
Thanks, Lindsay, and thank you, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Perfect. It's interactive here, and these questions the whole way through, otherwise it's going to take ages. As Lindsay just said, my name's Tom Boucher, and I'm the Managing Director of FANUC UK, and I really would like to welcome you all here today. I hope you have a great day. I really do appreciate you've all taken time out of your very busy diaries, so let's try and get as most that we can out of this exhibition that we can possibly get. I don't know if it feels the same to everybody, but it feels a lot longer than a year since we've had the last open house. I'm sure it was at least 3 Prime Ministers ago, so it must be longer than a year. Hopefully, I haven't watched the news this week, hopefully we've got the same one as we had Sunday, have we? It's still Richard Sunak or whatever Biden called him. I better shut up about politics now. Brooks had me on pain of death not to mention any politics, so I'll stop. Just a quick housekeeping note. I'm sure you've been told it on the way in. It's a no smoking building. There is 2 fire assembly points, one out the front door, one out the back door, so please just go there. If there is no planned alarms today, we obviously haven't planned to have a fire test today, so if you do hear it, please just exit front or back and the fire marshals will all be out there to look after you. There's a lot of FANUC staff on hand here today to look after you as well. they are really just here to make you feel at home. So if you have any questions, if you want to know anything, if you want to understand where any of the machines, any of the exhibitions, please just ask them and they'll help you to do it. I hope that everybody, well no, I don't hope, I'm sure that everybody will find something of great interest here today from the various exhibits, the presentations and the round tables. Please join in as many of the debates as you can. Ask anything that's on your mind, ask anything that you want to know about the topics that we're talking about. It's only with your participation in this that we're going to get all the questions asked, that we're really going to drive the automation debate forward or the education debate forward. So we're going to have experts here from government, from academia, from other OEMs, from everybody. So ask them the questions. Anything you've got on your mind, somebody's going to have on their mind as well. So please, just join in. There is over 40 different exhibitors here this week, both in the showroom out there and in the workshop out the back. And I think the only way that we can do this, the only way that I can see of doing this is to have these people involved, because it's only together that we're going to fix this issue. So we need to all work together to fix this issue. As many of you know, I am quite passionate about raising the skill levels and bringing people into the engineering industry, the manufacturing industry. I think it's very vital that we do that. So we have asked all of the exhibitors here today to contribute this year. It's the first time we've ever asked them to contribute. And what we're going to do is put their money where our mouth is, and we're going to be supporting the Arkwright Scholarship. And the Arkwright Scholarship picks 16-year-olds and gives them a 2-year bursary to study some engineering to help them get in the materials they need and everything else. So I believe with the contributions that we've had from our exhibitors that we're able to put 4 students through this 2-year Arkwright Scholarship. So first of all, if I can ask you as well, just a really big thank you to all of our exhibitors for that. The Make UK report for 2022 shows that the UK is the 9th largest manufacturer in the world with £183 billion output. Think about that, it's a huge number. These islands, as I've said many times before, do have a long and proud trading history, and despite any uncertainty, have always punched well above our weight. We can continue to do that. We have world-class engineers, we have world-class machine tool builders, world-class integrators, and a world-class workforce. We really need to exploit that. Many of those people will be here this week on the panels, walking around in the audience. So please, that's why we need to engage with everybody to fix this issue. Today you'll see a small glimpse of our world-class innovations in the showroom and the workshop, and you'll see our turnkey system ability at FANUC UK, which we believe has always been the UK's best and is now the UK's largest. I've already had a discussion with our people about the show next year, because we've got so much system orders that we're going to be building next year. We need to actually plan next year's open house in to make sure we have the space to do it, which is a lovely way to be. So you'll see a range of our IoT, deep learning field, as well as the other Industry 4.0 offerings. Please join in, get them all, see what you need to get out of them. After the difficult last couple of years we've endured, I think we can all start looking forward to a bigger, brighter, better future in the UK. I think it is here. We know that with the inquiry levels we have, with the interest we have, with the interest for this show today, with you guys being here today. The IFR, the Robotics World Association, that reports, despite the global crisis, their signs are currently favourable and there's a massive investment in automation. Just a few points to get you thinking about as you look around today. The IFR state there was a 32% increase in 2021 to 517,385 robot installations worldwide. That's the highest all-time number of new installations since the IFR have started keeping records. Also, the largest growth was in Europe. Europe had a 38% market share of that worldwide robot installation numbers. So lots of stuff is coming into Europe. We are growing automation. The UK is the only G7 country that is below the world average, and I'll show some slides on that a little bit later. The UK has a robot density of 101 compared to the worldwide average of 127. We rank 24th in the world. So even though we are a massive producer, We could still increase our productivity if we use more automation. Lots of countries have around the same as us, 9%, 10%, 11% of their GDP is manufacturing. But their output is a lot higher because they're using a lot more automation. A German worker, for instance, is about 30% an hour more productive than we are because of the use of automation. So we can't compete with it unless we do automate. We have to automate. However, on the good news, 5 years ago, the robot numbers were 71 in the UK, so we have grown from 71 to 101. We are going in the right direction. We just need to keep pushing that number. I think there's a number of factors involved in that. The exodus of foreign labour after Brexit caused a lot more need for automation. COVID caused a lot more need for automation with social distancing and collaborative robots, perfect for that solution. I think the UK is ready to modernise. So we need to make sure we are all at the forefront of making that happen. I think the super tax deduction still goes to next year, so everybody should use it to buy capital equipment this year because it goes 2023, I think it ends. Make UK have asked the government to look at putting capital equipment into the R&D tax credit, which makes sense. I think that would be a sensible place to use it in that budget. Whether the government do it or not, I don't know. So we at FANUC are seeing a massive interest from dealing with manufacturers, OEMs, the interest in this show, everything that's going on. So please, just let's all get together. Let's make sure the UK is at the forefront of this global push for automation. Make sure that we get our place in that push going forward. Thank you. That's it for the introduction. You can all clap now, it's fine. Okay, you guys are lucky enough that you're going to get me for the next 20 minutes as well. This is only going to happen on the first day. Nobody else is going to have to endure it tomorrow or the day after. I just wanted to take a little bit of time to briefly go through FANUC, because some people don't understand who FANUC are, and I'd like you to understand who we are so you know where we're going. And then a little bit about those numbers, those IFR numbers, robot installations, where we stand in the world, how we stand, how far behind we are in automation, just to give you some thought points to go forward. FANUC's manufacturing is based at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan, in Yamanashi. You can see there, it takes up that whole area at the base of it. It was built into a national forest in Japan. FANUC worldwide has about 8,300 employees. It's got a sales revenue of 733 billion yen, which is about 5 billion euros, $5 billion, 5 billion pounds soon, but somewhere around that. They've got an operating profit of 183 billion and a net profit of 155 billion. So a net profit of about 1 billion euros. All of FANUC's core technology is based on their CNC systems. Everything is based. FANUC is based. FANUC started primarily as a CNC company. We have currently worldwide 5.2 million CNCs in production around the world that have been sold. We have laser systems. I forgot to put the number in, but we do a laser system as well. FANUC have 26 million servo motors out there across robots, CNCs, everything that they've done. We have over 900,000 robots. This was done at the end of August. We were 900,000 robots installed around the world. It's going to be slightly higher than that now, obviously. The field system, which is something that was going to be getting explained very well later tomorrow, I believe, is FANUC's offering. It's FANUC's Intelligent Edge Link device. So that's our IoT 4.0 offering. That's everything that will be covered on that. What we're also known for is what people don't often know is we are the leading supplier of contact machining centers, electric injection molders, and the wire cut discharge machines, as well as the Robo Nano, which is an ultra high precision machine. FANUC is definitely the world's #1 CNC manufacturer. We have over 60% of the worldwide market share of CNCs. So most people's machines, 6 out of 10 are going to be built with a FANUC control in them. As you can see, we've gone through it from 1958 when our first founder, Dr. Inaba, worked on the first, I guess it was an NC then, not a CNC, but the first NC was in 1958, going forward to where we are with over 5.2 million units in operation. We're also the world's #1 robot manufacturer. started producing robots in 1980, and now we've got over 900,000 robots installed worldwide. FANUC is also, I think I've got it in here later, FANUC has also got the highest production numbers of robots. We can build up to 10,000 robots a month. I think we're currently at about 8.5 because of product mix. All of our manufacturing is done in Japan, and it's one of the reasons that FANUC have kept it all there, is to make sure we have all the technology in one place and to really be able to build to the economies of scale that we need to do with the production volumes that we have. So monthly, we can do about 36,500 CNCs, 170,000 servo motors, 120 lasers. We're currently building 9,400 robots a month. The maximum number we could get is, I think, about 10.5. I think a big one to point out is our vertical machining center, the robo drill. I think a lot of people see it as a small niche market machine, and you can see down there we're building 3,000 of those a month. Most other manufacturers aren't going to cover that are in a similar business. They won't cover that in a year, never mind in a month. So we're able to build 3,000 of those vertical machining centers a month. 600 robo shots and 150 of the robo cuts. So you can see it's quite a large production facility, so that's why it's all kept in the same area in Yamanashi. FANUC design all of their products to be automated. I think that's something that we have a discussion here with a lot of people when they come in with products. You can't think of automation last once you've designed a part. You should think of the whole process going through to be automated, because you find that a lot of processes that we see in here for our systems business, people do things in a certain way because 5 years ago somebody had to knock a bit out of the way to make it happen because of the way the design had evolved, etc., etc. So people really need to look at automation and how you can automate these systems, automate your production right from the start. FANUC builds about 95% of the robots are all produced in FANUC. All the components, everything is built in FANUC in Yamanashi. We have our own foundries, machining, cabinet assemblies, everything else. It's about 80% probably of the whole FANUC portfolio is built by FANUC. So it's a huge number. We're able to control it ourselves. FANUC is the only country, or the only company that we do actually build robots using our own robots. We have probably one of the highest numbers of robots in production is in FANUC's facility itself. We use the robots to do everything. So they build the servo motors, they do the machining, they assemble the cabinets, they do all the stuff for the CNC. But they have built it all into the design of that component. Every component that is designed by FANUC now is how you can easily automate that production run. It saves an awful lot of time and effort down at the end of it to try and make it right in the first place. FANUC is really trying to be growing in Europe, and we do see, as I said at the beginning there, the robot market in Europe is now 38% of last year's total. So Europe is a huge and important market. FANUC has 21 active subsidiaries in Europe at the moment. There is 24, but the 3 ones on this side of the map are grayed out for obvious reasons at the moment. They're not too active. So we do have 24. We opened FANUC Ireland 3 or 4 weeks ago, lads? Yeah, somewhere recently we were over there. FANUC Europe is a little bit like the Eurovision Song Contest. I mean, we've got Israel, North Africa, various places that probably not on your traditional European map if you're looking for Europe, but we cover that whole massive area. There's over 1,800 employees in FANUC at the moment, and 60% of those are either in technical or service. We need to make sure that we support our end users correctly, so we have a high percentage of technical people on side and less on everything else. I'm not going to do too much on Europe, but one of the changes that FANUC have done is they've opened a European Development Centre. All of FANUC's development historically has been in Japan. So we send back once a year or twice a year European requirements and what's needed, the way machines are going, what's happening, what future developments we can see. FANUC have now decided that that needs to be in Europe. It helps us being able to feed into the design process of future machines, And it also helps our design people to be able to support the European customers. If there's something unexpected happens with a machine, we can get somebody straight into it to find out what's going on if it's a new machine. We can then put that back in. They can deal with the laboratories in Japanese to be able to make it happen. So that is a big step that we're doing to support European customers. I've been asked about 3 times already this morning, and I'm sure I'll be asked about 40 times by the end of the week about the supply chain of machines and everything else, time taken to get FANUC products. We have a 43,000 square meter facility in Kontern in Luxembourg to hold stock in there for European needs. We have over 5,000 robots in stock in Kontern, and we have over 700 combined of the drill, shot, and cut machines. We basically have we tried to keep over 3 months worth of production stock in stock so that we can just replenish it coming in from Japan. So we do have a huge amount of stock in Kontern, and that still gives us a USP that we have more stock in Europe than most other people will have. Our logistics center in Luxembourg, FANUC has got service first is one of the key words in FANUC. And the only way we can do that is to make sure that logistically we have everything in Europe that we need. So we have over 47,000 different types of parts, everything else in stock in Europe. FANUC's philosophy is to have 100% of current models in stock in Europe. So anything we're currently selling, machines, this robos, drill, the shot, the robots, we will have 100% stock in Europe. They've given us a little bit of leeway and said that it's only 98% of the rest of the stuff that we've had for the last 40 years needs to be in stock. So we're trying to make sure that the way that we keep your production going is by having these facilities available here. We can use the backup of this one. We have a couple of £1 million worth of stock in here that we use for the immediate stuff. It's getting you going. FANUC's target is to have, we'll go on the repair center first, sorry. I must have messed up the order of these slides. We want to make sure there is obviously going to be breakdowns. FANUC want to control the repair of those breakdowns, because if we control the repair of those breakdowns and we build all of the stuff ourselves, we're able to field it straight back into our factories to make sure if there is anything that's occurring in there, we can get it out of the production facility straight away. So our guys here will repair everything to exactly the same standards as FANUC Japan. There's a repair facility in Japan, there's a repair facility in America, and there's a repair facility in Luxembourg. They're the only 3 authorized FANUC repairers worldwide. Quick note on reliability data, because I think it's important. Because we build all of that stuff, we know what the reliability of that product is. We're able to take every breakdown against every installation and be able to collate that information. So for the CNCs, which is including the motors and the amplifiers, it's 32 years mean time between failures. So if you have one CNC, you can expect a fault in 32 years. I mean, it's a hugely massive number. It's an impressive number, and we're trying to actually improve on it again, because FANUC's philosophy is 0 downtime. So we want to make sure you don't have failures. But 32 years. 25 years mean time between failure on the robots. So 25 years, it's huge if you think about it, because most product life is what, 8-10 years probably that a robot installation is really wanted for in its first usage. So you've probably got 3 different product groups that can go through the same robot with 25 years. That's calculated on 2019 to 21, total number of installations, total numbers of repairs coming through to FANUC. They do the same in North America, they do the same in FANUC Japan, so we're able to collate all that together, add it together, and that's the numbers we end up with. As I was going to go on to earlier on, the service KPIs are the way that FANUC sees us growing within Europe, around the world. So our target for parts availability was 99.9, that's combined of old parts and the new products. With the result over the last 12 months was we actually had 99.98 parts in for immediate dispatch across Europe. Response time from getting the first call to actually getting someone on site, we had for under 20 hours. We've just getting under there now with 19.2 hours. But bear in mind, we're not trying to manipulate these figures. If somebody phones on a Friday night with a breakdown but says they're closed all weekend, we've started that call and it's not till Monday morning we're allowed to go in, because if you start taking things in and out, you can make the figures look whatever they want. So that is from call to actually getting on site, regardless, 24 hours, 7 days a week, worldwide. And a machine tie-in time of under 24 hours, so from when we get the call to when we get there, get the parts and fix it, we're aiming for under 24 hours. We're currently slightly in the red at that at 24.5, but that will continue to keep coming down. Was it on that one there? Yeah, I think the bit in the middle there, of those 44,000 spare service parts that were required in the last 12 months, we missed 11 parts that we couldn't ship out immediately to get that product going again. And of those 11 parts, all of them were within a week that we got from either Japan, North America, or whatever. So 11 parts out of 44,000 is a huge number to be able to hit. FANUC, the other thing that makes FANUC unique, in my opinion, is you decide the lifetime of the product, not us. If you want to keep that CNC, that robot, that robo drill shot cut running, you decide how long. We will always fix it. So the number of spares repairs that you can see there worldwide, that's the yellow figure there is older than 1990 that we're still getting parts coming in to repair. It's dropping down because people do take them out of production. But it's the we will repair it. For as long as you want to use it, we will repair it. The robots is exactly the same. In the calendar year 2021, we had 148 robot repairs that were in robots older than from 1990 to 1999, which is, we only started making them in 1980. So, you know, nothing is still running pre that period. But if it was, we would keep it running. You decide it. FANUC will not decide. Everybody else tells you a lifetime of the machine is talking about 8 years, 10 years, 12 years. If you want to keep it running for 40 years, we will keep it running, and because we manufacture the parts. If we can't manufacture the original, we will manufacture an alternative to be able to get that going. As I said, service first policy, reliable, predictable, and easy to repair. That's everything FANUC build is making sure we stick to that philosophy, which is why we build automation into it. Just a few facts about robots, because robots are the easiest ones to get into. I know that automation isn't just robots. I do work here, so I do understand we have other machines as well. But robots is the easiest figures to get to. So in the UK from Bara, the top sales by industry are still automotive in the UK, then auto components, process industries, construction and design, and the same material handling, spot welding, arc welding, assembly. So they're still the big ones for robots. I just want to go through the G7 countries. So Germany, Japan, USA, Italy, Canada, France, UK. And the robot installations per 10,000 workers. This is just to give you an indication of where we are. So Germany, for every 10,000 workers, has 371 robots in production in factories in Germany. Japan has overtaken them. Japan has now gone to 390. The order that I put the first column in was last year's production numbers. So Germany had the most, Japan second. So I've left them in the same order by country, but the number might change. The US falling behind a little bit, but 255, still a massive number. Italy, 224, has caught up considerably on it. Canada's dropping down to 176. France is now overtaking Canada, where it used to be number 6. We're at 101. We have a huge area to grow. We can grow this automation industry. So we need to just make sure. I'm really positive about the UK. I think we have everything we need, as I said at the beginning. But we could make it quicker, better, easier if we start automating more. I think those numbers show us, I think we're number 14 or 15 in Europe on robot usage. We've got Finland, 139, but those figures are about 2 years out of date. For some reason, Finland haven't fed into the IFR last year. The Czech Republic, excuse my format in there, but is 162. So we have a huge growth all the way through, and I couldn't figure out how to do 7, 8, 9, 10 on the second side of the chart, so that's why they're all numbered again. 15th in Europe, as I said, a huge amount to grow. We've got a huge amount to grow. 25th in the world. There's 25 or 24 countries with more robots per 10,000 workers than we've got. Our manufacturing productivity is one of the lowest in Europe. So even though our output is high, we're the 9th largest manufacturer in the world, our productivity isn't as high as it could be. We need to improve our productivity. GDP, we're kind of middling on where manufacturing is in our GDP. We're about somewhere in the middle. It's okay, but it's not too bad. But if we take manufacturing at 9%, we can grow that. We can grow our manufacturing output to much higher than 9%, or grow our productivity much higher by adopting the same processes that other countries have used. I think, like I said, the USA is about 10%, but they have a lot more robots per 10,000 workers than we have. So they're producing more with the same numbers of people. And I said it there earlier on, for every hour a German worker produces 30% more than a British worker by use of automation. Their output is a lot higher. Things that we need to quickly do going forward. I'm aware that I'm running out of time, Lindsay. Yeah, okay. I said that I wouldn't fill the 15 minutes. I seem to have gone past it. We need to change negative perception about automation. At the moment, it still annoys me. This is the slide that I put up from last year and the one 3 years ago. There's still a negative perception about robotics. Any AI seems to be counted as a robot now. Some very clever program that answers your phone from a call center is a robot. It's not a robot. We're talking about industrial robots here. We need to take that away from the other robotics. We get it all the time. I've only had it once this morning, but I will get it a lot more this week about robots taking jobs. Not true. As you've seen, Germany had 4 times almost the robots we had. But I looked on the figures last night. Germany's unemployment's 3%, ours is 3.6. They both come down post-pandemic because they were 3.6, we were 4.1 going into it. But automation doesn't remove jobs. It increases jobs. It skills jobs. It gives people a better thing to do. It makes more interest in a job. We do need to upskill people to do it, but it takes tasks away, not jobs away. It takes away the dull, dirty, dangerous task, replaces them by a robot, upskills somebody else to do the job that the robot was doing. There is that McKinsey report. I think I said I didn't fully agree with it last year, but I still don't. But there is a report that says for every one job that is lost through automation, 3.5 jobs are created in different tasks, in different roles, at different things to do. So technology creates jobs. It doesn't remove jobs. We need to get the return on investment cost to make sure the C-level people in this building and elsewhere understand the return on investment. I talk a lot about upskilling people when I go into meetings, and everybody seems to think I'm talking about the apprentices. I'm actually talking about the decision makers. Because if they don't know what the ROI is, if they don't know what the product can do, how can they release the purse strings? So we need to make sure we educate higher up the chain than we have been. There has been a 20% drop in investment. It is turning around slowly, and investment is increasing. We're seeing that with the interest that's coming in here. But we really need to make sure we stop that decline on investment in the UK. We need to increase that investment in the UK. We really have to improve education. As I said earlier on, we're going to start supporting some more students going through the academy. We need to upskill. We do have, if you talk to most companies, the reason that they don't automate is they don't think they have the skills to be able to cope with new technology. So we need to get rid of that. We need to make sure we upskill the people to use today's technology. If we don't use today's technology, we're not going to be able to catch up with tomorrow's or the year after or wherever. We have to use it now. We have to get in there and use it now. We need to make sure that engineering, manufacturing is seen as a legitimate career path. A lot of people still have a very negative view of engineering. They see it as just the dull, dirty jobs, going in there and greasing things or repairing things. I mean, there is so many roles within engineering and manufacturing that are fantastic roles. It is a legitimate career opportunity. I was at a breakfast meeting in London a little while ago with some CEOs of various manufacturers, and I think 75% of us came through the apprentice route. There was only 25% came through the graduate route. So we can bring people into the engineering task through apprentices as well as degrees. We can bring them through in both ways, but it is a legitimate career path. We can't put the technology genie back in the bottle. It's out there. If we don't use technology, somebody else is going to use it. We're not producing as on a competitive, equal footing. So let's make sure that we give ourselves the best chance of going forward, that we're able to do it. And let's lobby government. Government, or this week's government, last week's government, hasn't been that great on manufacturing, on where the funds go to. There is a huge amount of money out there, but we don't always focus it in the right areas. We need to lobby government to get a little bit more pragmatic with where they put the funds, how they use that money, how that we can grow it. It's still maybe skewed slightly to the academic side more than the pragmatic side. So let's make sure anybody that can lob a government minister, your local MP, make sure that they know that manufacturing is what it is in this country, and we need to get it up there. And that's it. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions, even though I've run out of time? No? Come on. How can I put you to sleep that quickly? If you do have any questions, we're here all day. Just ask me or anybody else, and we'll take it from there. Lindsay,
Brilliant.
thanks. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we are online as well. So if you've got any questions online, do message them in. And we've got the team doing a panel discussion afterwards too. Right, so before I welcome Oliver to the stage, after that will be the panel discussion on the power of partnerships. And that's your chance online and for all of you here to get involved. But next up, please welcome Oliver Selby from FANUC UK. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for everyone for being here today. As Lindsay's said there, my name's Oliver Selby. I'm responsible for sales here in the UK and also in Ireland. It falls on me today to talk about some of the things that we're doing in terms of getting the UK engaged, empowered to use automation, to increase the number of machines we can try and sell out into the wider UK manufacturing and Irish manufacturing scene. So partnerships is something that I think is absolutely key for our business. And what you'll see over the next sort of 20 minutes is some of the ways that we try to engage our partners, our customers, in a way that puts us really at the forefront of what we're offering to that UK industry. So we're going to look at some of the strategy around what we do, the positioning, the position that we put ourselves in, the engagement that we have, looking at our supply chain and helping our supply chain gain access to those industries that we deal with, and also looking at education, which I think you'll all agree is obviously one of the key pertinent points of the next 3 days, is making sure we've got a workforce that is fully aligned with what the future of UK manufacturing looks like. So looking at strategy, we're very lucky within FANUC to have a strong management team, a strong management philosophy that have given us 3 key philosophies going forward as part of our business, which were also rolled out across the whole of the global FANUC network. And those 3 words there, quality, respect and passion, can be used within all parts of our business. They are used within all parts of our business in different ways. And you'll see as we go through what they mean to us and how we actually use those in our daily work to ensure we do the right things by our customers, but also our supplier base, and also do things right for that future workforce, as I've said before. So looking at the strategy from a quality point of view, it's a long-term plan. We want to ensure we've got products, we've got people, we've got the right qualities, the right philosophies going forward for a long-term plan. FANUC don't look at things for the next 5, 10, 15 years. It's 100 years' time that FANUC are looking for. Yeah. Now, none of us will necessarily be here then. There might be a few younger people that may still be here if the retirement age keeps getting pushed up. But it's a Japanese way. Look at the long-term strategy. The respect. We need to ensure that we position ourselves within the supply chain to be fully respected, both up and down the supply chain. We look at ourselves kind of as the glue that holds together our supply chain. And I'm sure many companies would look at it the same way. They are the glue that holds their supply chain together. The last thing there, the passion, and hopefully you'll hear from sort of my outlook today that I'm very, very passionate about the way in which we engage with customers through partnerships. But it's not just our customer and our vertical sort of supply chain and the way we supply to market. It's also the horizontally aligned strategies we have with schools, universities, colleges, and bringing that workforce through to the future. So looking at our vertical positioning in a bit more detail, FANUC sits there kind of one up, if you like, from where we would normally engage with customers, whether that's intermediate customers or end customers. And to give it some perspective there, an intermediate customer to us might be a machine tool dealer or a robotic integrator, so to say. We are that glue, and we position ourselves within that sort of supply chain such that we've got the ability to supply equipment with our equipment to that intermediate customer, who can then go and develop their own solution, their own turnkey solution to the end customer. But needless to say, we don't just supply to intermediate customers, we're also supplying direct to end customers. The big automotive OEMs of the world, the big medical companies in the world, we can supply to them directly also and let them engage with their supply chain in the right way to ensure they get the best possible outcome or turnkey solution that they're looking for their manufacturing. When we look at our horizontal positioning, you can see there FANUC working with many different companies and trade organisations with a view that we try and increase the level of skills we have in the UK and globally that work with automation. We want to ensure we work with the right trade organisations to ensure we put the right message out there, to ensure we've got the right information being passed from the industrial manufacturer's point of view out into the wider manufacturing sector. Along with Tom, we're very passionate about having apprentices within FANUC UK and FANUC Europe, and very happy to be working with a number of different facilities and companies in the UK and Ireland and Northern Ireland there in actually developing those apprentices for the future. So, moving back to that vertical side, when we look at the end user engagement, we like to think we're kind of no ordinary supplier. And I'm sure many automation, machine suppliers would say the same thing about themselves. But if I give you kind of an idea on some of the things that we do to ensure we are doing the right thing by them, having a very high quality with a technical department with a huge amount of depth of knowledge, a lot of experience, but also bringing on younger people to take over those guys when they retire. That's one of the things we do there. We make sure we have the application and the process support necessary within FANUC and FANUC globally, FANUC Europe, FANUC UK, to ensure that when our customers come to us with looking for a manufacturing solution, we're able to offer the full solution and not just one part of the solution. We ensure we've got process knowledge in machining, in plastics, in EDM wire cut, in the use of robotics for a number of different uses, whether that's palletizing, arc welding, painting, or whatever it may be. We've got application and process knowledge there that helps the end customer directly. We ensure we have an engineering department here at FANUC UK that's able to de-risk the way in which the customer looks upon those future projects to ensure that there's nothing there that's going to come out of the woodwork at a later date that's going to bite them on the proverbial. So we also then look at, say, some of the more commercial side of it, so making sure we've got pricing and delivery agreements in place to ensure we can supply the equipment at the right time, in the right place, hopefully to the right price. Some of the more specialist things like development of special products. There's a huge company globally, make electric cars. Run by one guy, you probably know the one. But we've developed products for them directly upon their requirement, Robots that you will see in car production lines taking the place of older style equipment, sort of drop lifters that would take and lift a whole car, for example, from one production plant to another. We now use robots for that method, for that process. We develop special products not only for the automotive, but then for, like, say, medical companies with dual injection and triple injection type solutions for injection molding. And as Tom says there, the end user, the user of our equipment, it's imperative they have lifetime part support and also have world-class training available to them and service provision that allows them to have high uptime, high productivity through knowing they've got a supplier they can actually count on. If we look at those intermediate customers, to explain sort of some more about those, intermediate customers to us are machine tool builders, machine tool dealers, retrofitters from a CNC point of view. We have OEM customers, integrators, from a robot point of view, yeah? And we also have distributors for our robo-machine products, yeah? So that's what we class kind of as intermediate customers. They are our primary route to market, so to say. So it's imperative we have the right partnerships with those to ensure we get the best bang for buck in those relationships that we are building. What do we do for them? So we will have formal dealer type agreements. We will have partner programs. We will have, again, pre-sales application support, the de-risking side of it, to ensure that what they're selling to their end customer is de-risked as far as we can, to ensure that there's, again, not going to be any shocks in the future. Again, pricing agreements, making sure they're competitive when they go to their end customer with pricing that suits. Again, joint development of special projects. And also, in some cases, we have relationships where they are a supplier to us as FANUC, and we can then also supply equipment to them. And there's kind of that bond, and the relationship is a supplier-customer-supplier relationship, which is, again, so important to us. Again, making sure they've got the right training and their workforce as an intermediate supplier of automation to industry is in the right place. And putting together project-specific T's and C's, yeah? Now, I know it's kind of out there, it's quite a specialised commercial thing, but it's important sometimes that we, again, de-risk their risk as part of the project with the support of a big OEM like FANUC. Yeah? We sometimes take smaller projects on with bigger companies and actually front it for smaller companies again, so they can start to actually grow their business. And it's important that we're seen as that kind of anchor that they can actually rely on to ensure that they can sort of get that foothold they need in the industry. They can then start to grow their business in the right way with the right partner behind them, a big OEM like FANUC. And then from there on, we can see things growing. And it's all about the growth that we want to try and promote. I've got a couple of case studies here that are in different fields, some videos that have kindly been pulled together by MTDCNC, who are obviously here today filming this. But yeah, let me just run these through and we can have a discussion about them afterwards. So the first one here is Mollart. Mollart are here today presenting their solutions, their CNC solutions for deep hole drilling. And you'll hear from Mollart and Kirsty there, who's presenting this. You're in the video, Kirsty. So let me play that.
That you see behind us, Mollart Engineering have managed to sell to China. Congratulations. So there's a lot of benefits here also with the footprint, but the gantry. So why does this work so well for your customer?
Well, the gantry is basically not going to take up any space than you would do with just regular people driving the cell. So you've got a cell that's very, very nicely put for the actual space, but effectively so much more efficient than it would be if it was driven by people.
Now, off camera, you have said to me you'd be foolish not to use FANUC. So tell me why you've said this.
We would be foolish not to use FANUC because of our relationship with FANUC for the control side of the machines. We basically put our trust in the fact that we would be choosing a partner that actually, one, is world-renowned for what they're doing.
Yep.
There's no question of their pedigree. Two, they've got the expertise to back this up wherever it goes, including China. And three, we've got a very good working relationship with the management team at FANUC.
So thanks to Ian for pulling that video together on behalf of Mollart. Some of the pertinent points there is it's a partnership. Ian, I think you'll agree, you stood there at the back, but the robotics side of your development and application and the way in which you can sell your machine to a new customer base, is not something you would have necessarily been able to undertake on your own, and it was a case of obviously having some support from FANUC to ensure that, so not only the CNC side of what you're offering, but also the robotics side is fully covered off in terms of the risk that potentially it might offer to you as a business, being able to deliver that to future customers. So that's kind of the Mollart story, is that they're trying to look at more than one FANUC product, which is a nice story to have. But also getting a lot of traction now, obviously, from the UK, from Europe, and from global customers, like you heard there in China, in actually using automation in the right way to increase machine sales. The second video here is from a company called Recycle-eye. Recycle-eye are a company that we've worked with for about 4 or 5 years. And you'll hear in the video here about how they're using the FANUC robotic technology and the relationship and the partnership that we have with them to drive hopefully a future that our kids can actually enjoy in terms of having less waste, more sustainability in terms of waste processing. So yeah, let's hear from Victor, who's the CEO of Recycle-eye.
My name is Victor de Wolf, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Recycle-eye. So the Recycle-eye product is a combination of a vision system that's able to identify every single item in complex waste streams with the FANUC robot arm that's then able to automatically separate those recyclables. Everybody per day generates an average of 1.5 kilos of waste. All of that waste eventually reaches, if you do put it in the right recycling bin, a large-scale waste facility. And our product is all about making those facilities more efficient, run 24/7, to ultimately reduce the cost of sorting and enabling higher sorting rates. FANUC started supporting Recycle-eye when we were just a team of 4 people, and they really put their faith into us and in the product we set out to deliver. And they've really been a key part in supporting us in growing into a company that's now 30 people and deploying all across Europe and beyond.
So you can see there just one example of the way in which we try and develop companies. We try and work as a partnership to ensure that we've got a strong base, not only in machining or injection molding or car manufacture, but across the whole spectrum. Yeah, Recycle-eye is one of those real kind of key ones we would advocate to anyone. If you can try and push your local council to buy robots, that would be great. So we start looking then, obviously, about the supply chain. We're down at the bottom of that vertical supply chain hierarchy now. So the peripheral supply chain engagement. So we work in a number of different ways, and FANUC is trying to drive globally towards having more standardized solutions available from FANUC, where we're working directly with the supply chain in a way that allows for a single point of contact for the end customer or those intermediate customers to actually purchase from. So with that in mind, say for example, you're buying an injection molding machine or a drill or a mill from us, to have the ability to go and purchase the metrology solution on the side of it or the material feed solution on the side of it, it's important that we can again de-risk and provide standard solutions to industry in a way that makes it easy to purchase. And we do that by taking these 5 steps. So we develop standard solutions, we implement it into the sales tools that we as FANUC have, and we make sure we then market those to our customer base efficiently. Ensure we've got mutual value generation. It'd be no good for us to do that if we're taking away from the supply chain or asking them to sell at a lower margin. We've got to make sure there's mutual benefit there and business growth. And to maintain the FANUC philosophy, 2 Japanese words there, genmitsu, which is strict preciseness, making sure that those products that those suppliers supply to us are highly reliable, along with a FANUC product, that they're fully documented, sold in a way that actually makes it easy for the customer to use, they're the right product for the job. But also tumai, transparency. And again, these 2 philosophies here from Japan that are pushed out globally across the FANUC network are vitally important to our business. We work in a way that we are fully transparent with our supply chain, but also with our customer base. We ensure that the transparency across the business helps us drive that growth. Looking at education, sort of lastly, we work with a number of different companies from schools, colleges, universities, right through the STEM or STEAM engagement activities that we're asked to by UK government, by European government, and also looking at obviously the global situation when we have World Skills who we work with. You'll be lucky if you walk around today to see 3 systems out in the showroom there that are offering to the World Skills organisation for robotic implementation, robotic development using robotics. World Skills, if you get a chance to obviously speak to anyone within the business, everyone will have an idea of what World Skills is, but it's about engaging with young people to ensure we've got the right people there, the right young people, the right engineers of the future available to ensure we have a steady, reliable stream of workforce there who are able to engage and push out automation into the future. Lastly, we've got here a video from Cranfield University about the way in which they work with a number of different robotic and automation companies in the UK, not just FANUC, but it gives you an idea of kind of what's being pushed out there at university level. I spotted Marco from Airbus here earlier. He's probably gone for a walk, but some of the robots that are actually in the Cranfield facilities you'll see there are directly for the likes of Airbus, for Boeing, for Spirit Aerospace, and things that they're doing there are very much directly related to the future engineering projects that the UK is actually bringing on board. Programs that are not only 5 or 10 years away, but 15 or 20 years away, the sort of projects that I hope my son will be working on in the future. So it's important that we engage in the right way now for what will happen in the future. So.
I'm James Fowler. I'm a Senior Technical Officer at Cranfield University. I work in the Aerospace Integration Research Centre, where we have a lab called the Intelligent Automation Lab. One of the main purposes of our work is to break down the idea that robots have to be in hard physical cage barriers. So we use laser scanners and optical sensors that will slow down or stop a robot when you get too close to it.
In the laboratory, we have a full-size real Airbus A320 wing, and we'll be using this as a demonstrator to show you how we can interact with people, robots and drones to perform assembly and inspection and manufacturing processes with the 3 components working together in a safe and integrated way.
So from that short video there, you'll see that the future of our manufacturing output probably looks quite different, actually, hearing from Phil and from the guys there at Cranfield. The future of our engineering manufacturing output looks quite different to what it may do today. Certainly within those areas of aerospace, of automotive, and say looking across the rest of the business as well, when we start to introduce technology in a way that actually allows us to actually work slightly different. So that pretty much sums it up for me, is that what does it mean to us? We're passionate about change. We want the change to happen. We want to put the right things in place to ensure we've got a future to rival our European, our global counterparts in terms of automation adoption. And what does it mean for you? Well, hopefully you'll see from today and from the engagement we have with our partners here at FANUC UK. I think we've got 40 exhibits here today, or exhibitors here today, to be able to talk to you. And we've got a number of exhibits from FANUC UK to be able to actually look round. You'll see that we're passionate about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build in terms of that partnership network that allows you as a manufacturer to really engage in a way that ensures the long-term health of UK manufacturing. So thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Oliver. Now I know you're part of the panel discussion up next, so you can stay on the stage. So can we welcome onto the stage, we've got Dan Fisher from FANUC UK, James Cook from PCE, Gary Otley from Loop Technology, Simon Carlian I hope I've said that wrong. If not, you can correct me. From IPG, and Roberta Tanzarillo from Rockwell. This is a really exciting part of the event. And the reason I say that is it's a chance for you to get involved. In fact, last year, it kind of got a little bit heated at one point because there was lots of kind of exciting topics that we were talking about that people were really, really passionate about. So please welcome everybody onto the stage. With a big round of applause. Now, take a seat, and what I'd like you to, each and every single one of you to do, probably from yourself on the left-hand side, and we'll just go across to the right, explain who you are. I feel a bit like Cilla Black here, who you are, where you come from, but also what you're going to bring to the topic of the power of partnerships, starting with yourself. Gary.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yes, Loop Technology are a system integrator primarily in the aerospace, composites and defense sectors. And I'd like the opportunity, if we get the chance, to talk a little bit about how we work with FANUC as a partnership. We find FANUC being a very, very open company and very helpful. And we need as much help as we can get in the aerospace and defense industry. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Roberta Tanzariello, platform lead for robotics and digital tools. So globally, I'm leading the development and the partner networks that we have in Rockwell for robotics. So I'm here to, and I would like to bring here as a topic the integrated architecture, the joint architecture that we have with FANUC, the added value of our partnership in terms of technology, and how we can bring together this connected enterprise right in life. Thank you.
So, my name's Dan Fisher. I'm partner sales manager here at FANUC UK. And I kind of look after, on a day-to-day basis, quite a few different partners, more kind of on the robotics integrator kind of sector. And then running parallel with that, developing a partner network and kind of how we can further and develop our partner network.
Yeah, so Oliver Selby, Head of Sales for FANUC UK in Ireland, here to talk obviously about the partner network and obviously the strategy that FANUC have brought to the market to try and develop the future of UK manufacturing.
Yeah, hi, Simon Carline. I'm the UK and Ireland System Sales Manager for IPG Laser Photonics. We have premises next door, but a global company. So I'm here to talk about the growing partnership between our companies and how more and more of our customers are looking to automate.
Okay, thank you. So James Cook, Managing Director of PCE Automation. So PCE, we supply automation equipment primarily for the medical device sector and ocular. And, you know, I think one of the interesting things about being on the panel today are not only to sort of highlight the great relationship we have with FANUC, but also, you know, the wider supply network as well. So how supplier alliances are so important to us as a company.
Perfect. So can I ask, first of all, does the floor have any questions? Just to kick things off. If not, we'll have to use some of our the ones in our back pocket. Any questions from anyone? No? Right, okay. So I'm going to kick things off with Dan, actually. Yeah, throw you under the bus, or put you on the spot, I should say. I'd like you to sort of detail out, Dan, obviously, the way in which you engage with partners from the first sort of meeting that you might have with them. Because we have a growing partner base, and it's obviously interesting to understand, obviously, how you engage with them.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing, or the first approach really is going to a customer and kind of explaining FANUC. And most customers or potential customers that I go and visit will have heard of FANUC. But they don't, just because they've heard of FANUC, I don't think it means that they know what FANUC is really about and the values of FANUC. So the first thing really is to explain very briefly about what FANUC do in terms of the partnership, how we can add value to their sales process, their design process, and their commissioning process even in some cases. And then we kind of, once we move on from those conversations, we get into the day-to-day kind of detail really of how I can support in quoting, the turnaround for quoting, the technical support we can offer, and then kind of more commercial aspects in terms, in kind of your terms on our quotes and our lead times and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to put a question to both Gary and James here. We'll probably go to Gary first, but you're both companies that work not only with FANUC, but with other robot suppliers. So I'd like to understand, obviously, what it is that FANUC offer that allows you to obviously include them as part of your offering to your end customer. Because we do all offer the same thing in the end of the day. It's robotics, automation. But what makes you come back to FANUC wanting to keep that engagement going?
Okay, so Loop Technology is full of geeky engineers. We love engineering. So if somebody presents us with a difficult problem, the more our guys love it. You know, the idea of making money on the job is not their first concern. They just like the fact it's very, very difficult and they can't wait to get stuck into it. And the type of work that we get involved in means that it may have never been done before, or it's for the future, it's technology which is brand new. So we need to have suppliers who, first of all, understand that and appreciate what we're trying to do, but most importantly, to support us, but with good technical support. What we really need is good local technical support. We recently had a day where we brought a lot of our senior technical team up to FANUC for the day to meet with the technical team from FANUC in Coventry. They were really, really impressed with the depth of questions that they were asking and the answers that we're getting from the FANUC team without having to come back to you later, we'll find out. And go, it was answered. Now, I can honestly say that they weren't expecting that because of the other companies. We deal with pretty much everybody, and we don't always get that support when we ask those questions. We either have to work it out for ourselves, etc., etc. And one of the key things that we find with FANUC is, you were talking about transparency, Ollie, earlier on, is they are very open. One of the first companies that told us the accuracy of a robot openly, proved it to us, showed us, and then we checked it, and they were right. So a robot isn't very accurate typically. It's great if you want to go from there to there, but the type of work we do, we get involved in stuff that is about volumetric accuracy, so machining, trimming, handling and laying things up and manipulating things. And FANUC were very supportive in our activities in trying to prove that we can make a robot solution a more accurate, robust solution, rather than robot companies who say, yeah, well, it should do that. FANUC actually put it in writing, show you and support you through that process. So for us, from an engineering company's point of view, that for us is very, very important, and that's what we get from FANUC.
Yep. Thanks, Gary. And James, can I come to you?
Yeah, so I think to add to that, so I would reiterate those comments 100%. But I think also, you know, as we sit in this wonderful facility today, is FANUC, you know, Oliver, you know, all the great friends which we have here. It's a huge company, but with a small family feel. And, you know, I think anybody who's sitting, you know, in this room today, I'd be amazed if somebody isn't coming across supply chain issues at the moment. And, but it's that flexibility, it's able to have those open conversations and work around to be able to then supply our customers with, it might not be the first solution we'd have chosen, but together we then choose, you know, the solution that's available and robust and sort of meets all the criteria. So I think for me, it's, yes, it's the expertise, but again, I do feel that, you know, there's probably lots of companies out there that do have the experts, but also to back that up, you know, with the customer service, with the technical team, is what kind of sets you guys apart.
Super, thank you. Are there any questions from the floor that you may have thought of in that time?
Yeah, it's a good question. So you go through the excitement bit, and isn't this interesting bit, then the realization of, oh my God, how the hell are we going to do this? We're fortunate that Loop Technology is it's a sizable business. It's not small, it's not huge, and it's not a corporate organisation. So maybe we're in a little bit more of a fortunate or unfortunate position, because ultimately it goes to the owner, who's an engineer, and we can sit down over a beer, chat it through, and let's see where the risks really lie, double check with some people who might, if we don't know the answers, and he'll make a choice. That one guy in the end ultimately he'll ultimately make a decision if the rest of the board can't. So it's a good question. We don't always choose to do things because we're going to make a great margin, is the reality of it. Because we're engineers, we're looking for opportunities moving forward. So I haven't really answered your question, I don't think, is the truth of it. But we maybe do things a little bit differently. Yeah, okay.
If I may just add to that also, I think, when we talk about the strength of our own supply chain, and proof of concept, proof of principle, plays a huge part in what we do. And our customers don't want to go out and buy expensive robotics or expensive automation sometimes to prove the principles. So again, we've worked closely together, haven't we, in the past with within this facility or with our other alliance partners to do exactly that. So very low risk at the outset to our customers, but it is a collaboration that comes together. So that everybody can see that, if the proof of concept, the proof of principle does come to fruition, then everybody's a winner.
Mm. Yeah. And just on that, Oliver, sorry, just to maybe help you with that, when we can see there is a big risk and we really think there's a black hole there, then we'll come to the likes of FANUC and say, hey up chaps, can we borrow one of your high accuracy robots, please, because we want to do some testing. And FANUC are very supportive in that. So they'll let us borrow one for a little while and we'd do some tests, let them have it back. Very supportive from that point of view. Yeah,
yeah, thank you very much. Any other questions from the, yeah?
Thanks a lot. I think, Gary, you said earlier on that what you like about FANUC is they offer good local technical support.
Yeah.
And I think, James, you also mentioned that, a global company, but with a sort of family feel as well. How important is it, especially given the supply chain issues globally at the moment, to have that local backup that you get from FANUC?
Sure, yes, very important. And to be honest with you, we talk about partnerships, but the reality is, we're a lot smaller than FANUC, and FANUC or any corporate organisation is going to have the rules and regulations that they have to work within, but ultimately it comes down to the people involved and building up that relationship. So it's not about necessarily FANUC, it's about the people that work here and the support that they give us. And the relationship that we have is a very personal relationship ultimately that allows us to pick up the phone and get an answer quickly and talk to the right people. So it's down to people at the end of the day, I suppose.
James, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think I heard Tom speaking on LinkedIn, an interview recently where he's talking about sort of how to promote automation in general. And I think just to add to that, yes, the local support, the family feel is vital, but also the big guys talking together. So again, sometimes if we're integrating equipment, it's very important that, everything talks to each other nicely. And so, I think that also is an important thing to highlight, that they have the resources in the background to bring to the party, if we do have problems. So that, not only across our whole supplier alliance network, and so that's what's so vital, really.
That's great. So on that point there, I'm going to go over to Roberta, because I think it leads quite nicely into the way in which Rockwell are able to support FANUC globally with a number of solutions, not only for interface to sort of peripheral equipment, but also with de-risking, also software through Emulate 3D. So maybe you can sort of expand on kind of what the Rockwell way of working is and how you engage with FANUC.
Yes, sure. Actually, we are selling a solution, as you told before, right? So we are selling not only just the robot that is actually a device in our joint architecture, but we are selling together a solution that is involving also ICT, and on top of that also all the digital thread, right? So the feeling and the outcome that jointly we are providing to our customer is really a life cycle management, a complete life cycle management of the complete architecture, but also the asset. So we are really focusing and following the customer from the design of the application through Emulate 3D, providing also a plugin with Emulate 3D to have the real use case through RoboGuide, as a user, right, to have really the real experience in terms of, usage and application compliance. So really is a journey from the design up to the operation and maintenance. Jointly together, we are building a solution that is not touching the robotics as it is in terms of application, providing advanced safety, integrated motion control, but also the complete architecture and added value throughout our complete portfolio, including ICT. So we are showcasing here a demo. You can see there an ICT technology with Emulate 3D, how we are providing and maximizing throughput. For example, this is one of the customer driver that jointly we are facing, right? And this is the journey that we are providing also in terms of connected architecture and in terms of solution.
Perfect, thank you. So on that note, in terms of sort of customer-supplier relationships, Simon, I'll come to you because IPG Photonics, IPG globally, with the laser solutions you have, you're obviously in the early stages of engagement with FANUC, but obviously you've got products there on the market that have been there for years and years. But obviously automation with lasers is kind of one of the things that obviously a lot of people are now looking for in terms of obviously cutting, welding, joining technologies. So maybe you can kind of expand on what Roberta's saying there in terms of obviously having those integrations with FANUC, because we are lucky to have software that does integrate with IPG directly. It's been designed, it's built, those integrations exist. So maybe you can expand on kind of the way in which IPG engage with us.
Yeah, sure. So from a systems point of view, in the UK and Ireland, more and more companies are approaching us, and Industry 4.0 and IoT is more and more prevalent. So what we're finding is they're kind of moving down the semi-automation or fully automated route, and due to the size of the parts, the volume, cycle time, and what we're finding with FANUC, like you said, it's early stages of the relationship, is we're getting really good, incredible support. They're supporting us from a technical point of view, visiting customers, video calls, and we're working on a joint solution together. So it certainly helps that we're next door and we've got that collaboration. But the wide range of different products, which I think we have between us, certainly is a really good fit for kind of the future. We've got, within our kind of company, different divisions within the States and Germany, which are kind of set up for building production lines for our customers. So what we're finding, it's not just the UK and Ireland, but it's globally. FANUC are able to kind of support us with kind of many of the challenges that we're coming across at the minute.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions from the floor? You're all a very quiet bunch. Okay.
And Oliver, I would like to add that, the outcome is really the differentiation that we can provide, right, together. Yep. Machine differentiation, how we are supporting customer to maximize the throughput, but also minimize and saving costs, right? Yep. So the flexibility is one of the key customer driver here.
Absolutely, and we go back to kind of one of the key FANUC philosophies in that we are transparent. Gary, you mentioned it. James, I think you would concur that we all work in quite a transparent way within our partnerships that we work within, and it's absolutely vital and key that we do so, and we continue to do so, to ensure that growth that we're all looking for, and that differentiation that we look for, to ensure that we win the business when we go out into the market. So, any other questions from anyone? Are there any from online, Kirsty? Not Kirsty.
Not at the
Lindsay,
moment.
sorry.
Okay, Simon, can you maybe just talk about kind of the reason that you're on the stage, your relationship with FANUC, because we haven't heard as much from yourself.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I work as the system sales manager at IPG Photonics, global company. We supply 2/3 of the world's fiber lasers. So we also supply these to large OEMs, heavily involved with a lot of industries, so medtech, automotive, batteries. And more of these companies are approaching us looking for an automated solution, so which invariably involves some kind of robotic, device, product. So we don't manufacture those ourselves, so it's great to have a partnership with FANUC where we have a collaboration where we can talk together and come up with a solution for the customer. So we generally find with standard platforms, we're kind of okay because they're relatively small devices, but the larger applications, then yeah, I mean, it's a really good product range which FANUC have got. Like I said, great service support, and yeah, we hope to strengthen it as time goes by.
Absolutely, yep.
And is there anybody from the floor really that, what's the reason behind people coming here today? If there's anyone that is willing to talk, if you've got any questions, kind of just being a bit more open and seeing if there is anything, I don't know if you yourself. Yeah, we've got another question, so that's, no, it's great. He's had lots of coffees. If you can just ask it me, just so I can get it over, because people at home can't hear the question. A question to Dan.
How's your existing FANUC system integrator partner network? Are they capable of tackling new and emerging markets like electric vehicles?
Okay, so how is basically, essentially, the team capable of talking to new and emerging markets like electrical vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing to say is the partner network, I would say, in respect to that question, is actually always evolving. And as kind of new industries, I guess, or subjects within industries pop up, then you are finding that different integrators are specializing in those fields. So because of that, the partner network is evolving. And there are a lot of existing partners that will take on some of that technology, and they will build on the technology that they are already specialists in. But like you say, there are some very niche markets that, for sure, there are. For example, Recycli. Recycli have, I don't think we have an existing partner before Recycli that we're dealing with that kind of those kind of systems. So yeah, it's always evolving. And that's a key part of the partnership as well, is to make sure that if an end user comes to us with a problem, we can offer a solution through a partner, and that we kind of have all bases covered throughout any form of automation.
And I'm going to ask you a question as well, sorry, Dan. I often ask this because it's kind of the latest in trends. Yeah. What are you hearing? What are you maybe saying to people, or what is the obstacle that people are going to be coming up to you, talking to you about at the moment that you're often hearing and you kind of want to shout out about?
I would say the first thing is actually the understanding of cost of automation. I think people don't fully understand where the cost of an automation system can start. And I think they see robots on TV and on the news and documentaries, and they assume that it's all well out of their budget, and it's not. The chances are for a robot or two robots in a system for problems you have on your shop floor or you have in your factory are well within your budget. And it's about educating the market for or educating the different markets and kind of getting them to understand that what they need, the chances are there is something that can be provided for that budget.
Right. Is there any more questions from the floor? No? Is anybody else?
I would probably add to kind of the first question that Dan answered there in terms of the engagement side. I think the work we do with schools, universities, colleges on various projects, which then may lead to work within the high-value manufacturing catapults to actually industrialize them or get them to a state where actually they can be put into production. That's the work that we want to lap up, because the reality is that the schools, universities, colleges are putting so much effort into getting the technology levels up to where they need to be to ensure that actually a production solution is available there. And when we get to that level where they can actually sort of get to a production level, that's where we need the commitment from UK industry to take it that one step further and put the money where the mouth is and say, okay, we've developed all this technology, let's take it to that next level and put it into production. Yeah, it is happening, but it's a bit slow in all honesty. So.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, you find that you're having to educate a lot of these customers, because when I go there and they see me looking at their setup, there's a general fear that people are going to lose jobs, or there's cost around it, the initial outlay. But I suppose it's down to us to kind of provide a solution and educate them.
Absolutely.
I think just also to add to that, on that point of view, what we find is that we get involved in a lot of new R&D type work and technology, and working with catapult centres also. I can fully understand the situation where you have a production director in a very large factory who's being put under pressure to make bits and get them out the door, when he's been asked by somebody to say, look, we've got this fantastic new shiny thing that's whiz bang and all this sort of stuff, and we'd like to stick it on you, and he's going to think, no way am I going to have that thing that's never been proven on my shop floor. Why should I take the risk? So there's this difficulty, I suppose, between production targets and pressures and getting new R&D and new technology into that environment. So there's a little bit of a conflict, I guess, in a typical company at the moment.
And what advice would you give to people?
Take a risk, have a go. I don't think, no matter what we say, in some respects, we can say all the right things, but still that bloke wants his job at the end of the month, and he still needs to be getting parts out the door. So I think get production people embroiled and understanding what's going on in the R&D environment earlier, rather than presenting something to them and saying, go on, give it a go. If we can get production involved, people, senior levels in large companies involved earlier, then that process will become a lot easier.
And that's kind of advice to FANUC as well,
Absolutely,
essentially.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, the sooner we can engage with the right people within those businesses to again, de-risk. Their knowledge is also important to the process. In many cases, the better, really. I mean, we can obviously then de-risk things as far as we can and get things across the line.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point I was going to make also. I mean, the risk is, especially on bespoke projects, the risk is on both sides. So as an automation supplier, we want to de-risk the project as far as possible also. So, and I think the second point to take to, that I think you're alluding to there, is that I think it's almost impossible for us as a company, or even the big guys, to be masters of everything. So that's where it's so important for us to understand our customers' requirements. And as I say, I hate using the word it's a journey, but it really is, from the day one of that inquiry, through our applications teams, through the discussions with Rockwell or with FANUC, that's kind of how that starts. And some of our applications, inquiries that go through applications, can be 2 years before they turn into a purchase order, because that's kind of the de-risking that we want to do, and we want to ensure that that's the same for our customers as well.
And just to add something, in terms of technology and trend, so as automation supplier, so also our roadmap is quite changing also in terms of the approach that we are providing to the customer. So we are moving from the application approach up to the configuration approach that is simplifying really the user experience, for example, considering the library, right? So a set of library that is capable to handle the complete application and provide to the user a simple user experience, just configuring the system, the eye track size with an handler. So that's also something
absolutely,
to,
yeah. Moving towards more of a configuration type approach, yeah.
Yes, and also in Emulate 3D, a complete catalog just to provide to the user the configuration approach from the design, picking a place, the right motors, up to the complete application deployment.
Good. Super.
Yep, okay,
Oh,
right.
we've got one question at the
We've
back.
got all questions. Oh, fabulous, okay.
I was going to just pick up on the point that you made about de-risking and couple that with the points that were made earlier about the UK market being slow to react to that new technology. Do you think as a nation we're risk averse when it comes to automation?
So do you think as a nation we're too risk adverse? I'm only asking this because online we can't hear the question, so.
That's okay, yeah. So certainly from my point of view, yes. However, looking across other European countries, global countries that have obviously taken steps probably 5 or 10 years ago, they were probably risk averse. But you look at those nations now, you look across Europe, you look across South Korea or Japan or wherever, they've all gone through this process. Yeah, at some point, they're all risk averse at some point. It's just a case of how willing we are to actually change the norm. And I say that's kind of where FANUC are probably sitting right now, in that we want to sort of bring that experience from other European and other worldwide nations in terms of obviously getting to a point where we can actually sort of say, it's okay to take the plunge. You know, if it goes wrong, we'll make it work. You know, we have to start somewhere. I think everyone on the panel would probably agree that the UK needs to take the plunge at some point. And I think it is slowly happening, but in all honesty, when you look at some of the numbers that Tom presented earlier, we're not quite there yet. I mean, we're still probably just dipping our toe in the water, and we'd like everyone to kind of just jump on board and kind of run with the same message that automation in the UK is something that's got to happen. It will happen. It's just about how quickly we can actually make it happen. So.
Is there a question online on the prompter? I think one's coming.
Can't see it. So the question we've got online is it an option that you train teachers to implement your academic education programs in school, thereby enabling students to obtain your certification to know how to program FANUC robots? It's a very good question, and it's something that certainly it's something we're looking at the moment. We first of all have to actually get to a point where our training courses in the UK and Europe are actually certified to the right levels. I'll be honest, we're not quite there yet. It does happen in the US, and very successfully in the US. They're probably around about 3 or 4 years ahead of where we need to be in the US, but it's something that we are looking at across Europe to ensure we've got training courses that are certified in the right way, enabling our people to actually be trained to actually deliver those training courses to the teachers, so train the trainer type courses. So it is going to happen. I think it will happen across Europe, but probably not for the next 2 or 3 years, maybe slightly longer, depending on the way in which we can actually get those courses certified, accredited, and rolled out. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had the manufacturing day last year. I think was it the first one, or certainly the second?
Right, yeah.
So we certainly had an open house, which was good. So I think it's going to be quite a slow road to get the schools and colleges, universities, but we're seeing more of that. Certainly at PCE, we're seeing more visits, and so I think that can only be good. And I think to lead on from that, that is something which we're looking to do personally. So I'm not sure whether if there's something which we can take today to do that, but certainly there's an interest.
Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Any more questions? No, and thank you for the questions online as well. And a big round of applause for everyone in the panel for getting involved.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. Well done.
So in just a few moments, if you're watching online, I'm going to pass you over to the MTDCNC team, who are going to do a panel discussion with maybe some of the guests from here. It will just be about maybe a minute and a half. So if you want to grab a coffee, come sit back down. Do not go, because we have got the next speaker, Ben Edwards, who's going to be talking about building a turnkey system. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. What a great start to this FANUC event. Now, if you are, of course, watching, this event runs for 3 days, today, Wednesday, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. There is a full agenda on the FANUC website. Panel discussions and speakers in the morning, great topics all about UK manufacturing and automation. And then in the afternoon, we've got, this afternoon, we've got robot training, which will be streaming live. So you can see how FANUC will teach you how to use a robot. We've also got robo drills in action this week, and there's 40 exhibitors here. So if you're watching this online, brilliant. But if you want to see it for real, you need to come here to Anstey Park in Coventry. Now, as Lindsay said, coming up there is another session, building a turnkey system with Ben Edwards. That will start in a few minutes' time. Now, 12:30, we're going to be streaming live from here and trying to grab some of the people from the audience that have been watching, get their opinions on automation and how they feel the UK is doing at the moment and what they're learning from this event, because that's really what these events are about. I'm joined by two esteemed guests, Joe Reynolds and Chloe Reeves. I'll start with you, Chloe. Is this the first time you've been to to this FANUC event, or were you here last year?
No, I was off on maternity last year. But
what, and you still didn't come?
Oh, no, I know, sorry, my fault. But the year before, it was still COVID, wasn't it? And we had nobody here, and we just did it MTD. But also, I've been here with my previous employer, and I just think that this facility is just an amazing facility, so much technology on offer. And it's not just CNC control, is it? It's so much more than that.
I think we just had someone trip up. Did you?
I didn't see
sorry
that.
about that.
That's live TV.
That's live TV. No,
but yeah, it's so much more than it. Oh my God, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I mean, even in here, you've got robots. This is where the training happens. You can do everything here from learning about automation to adopting it and getting the best out of it. Joe, you've done a lot of work as a journalist on UK manufacturing and learning and talking to very high level businesses like this. What have you taken so far from Tom and from Oliver and from the guests?
Just blown away, as I always am, coming to FANUC UK. It's no secret the size of the business here in the UK, but every time you come, you learn just that little bit more. Some of the statistics are just bonkers. 8,300 staff, nearly 1 million robots in circulation now. That's a lot of robots. 5.2 million CNC controls. That is approximately a 60% market share. And okay, we all know FANUC are big, but when you hear these statistics, it's unbelievable. Obviously, there's been a reoccurring theme of the lack of adoption of automation here in the UK, but the good news is it appears it's changing.
It is. I mean, is the statistic for 10,000 robots? For 10,000 workers, we've got 107 robots. And Tom Boucher did a brilliant overview this morning. In fact, you can of course watch on Catch Up. We're streaming this on YouTube and LinkedIn. If you want to shout out, do get those across to us, and I'll be able to see them on the screen and we'll be able to give you a shout out either now or at 12:30 when we do another panel discussion. Yeah, the adoption of automation is becoming greater, isn't it? And I mean, Chloe, you're on the road a lot of the days of the week. You'll see robots in action. You'll see, pallet systems in action. But automation isn't just about those things, is it? It's really, anything from a bar feeder to a parts catcher to and I'm talking about machine tool tending here. It's a real variety.
It's having a 3-axis machine and putting a 4+1 rotary table on it. It's talking about just having a little robot taking your parts in and out. It's a bar feed, it's a pallet changer. They are still types of automation, and you can have a 3-axis VMC bog standard and create an amazing automated system with adding things on and off. And there was something that Tom said which really blew my mind. Their robots make robots. And the robots that made the robots were made by robots.
It's like a scary film, isn't
it? Yeah, it's just incredible. And you had a statistic on there as well. Some of the machines and robots that were made before 1990, before I was born, they're still going. Sorry to say that, but they're still going out and servicing them. They're still going. So these robots, these machines are made to last a lifetime, and that's what's great about FANUC is it will be time served.
I think Joe, if you come here to the event this week, it's in Coventry on Anstey Park. It runs today, tomorrow and Friday. There is, I think as I mentioned earlier, and if you've just tuned in, there's 40 exhibitors here. A lot of kit on show, Joe, as well as, of course, these panel discussions and speakers.
For sure, yeah. There's lots on the show. Things from welding to machine tending to anything you can imagine is here at FANUC this week. And I do urge you to come. It's very well placed here in Coventry, Anstey Park. You're not too far from London, Birmingham, Manchester, even the North East. It is worth coming to take a look. Absolutely. But there's one more statistic. Obviously, there's education. We talk about education. For the lack of adoption of automation, for every job lost due to automation, it creates 3.5. So you do have this misconception where it costs jobs. In truth, it costs boring jobs that no one wants to do. The roles change and you upskill the personnel, but it is a myth that it loses jobs, for sure.
Great stuff. Now, we've just been joined by Oliver Selby. Oliver, welcome to the panel.
Thanks, Paul.
Great presentation by yourself, and a good panel discussion as well. For those people online are tuning in, they're dipping out, they're tuning back in, so some of them may have missed what you covered. Maybe you could just give us a very quick overview of what was discussed in both of your sessions.
Yep. So.
And if you just move a little bit closer to the mic so we can pick you up at the beginning.
Yeah. So during my presentation, if we start there, I was talking about the way in which FANUC engages with a number of different parties, both up and down the vertical supply chain that we're within. We work obviously with end customers, we work with integrators or machine tool dealers in various cases. Also work with our supply chain quite closely, especially at the moment, obviously where there are global supply chain issues, to ensure that we've got the right offering at the right time, hopefully at the right price for our end customers and our integrators. Pulling together packages that we know work together, that are fully de-risked from an implementation point of view, to ensure we're working with the supply chain and actually acting as that glue within the supply chain that we hope our end customers acknowledge and welcome.
And there was quite a few, or there was discussions around different markets and industries, but I'd be interested to pick from you which ones at the moment you're tending to get more involved in, and the growing ones and potentially the shrinking ones. I mean, of course, with the cost of energy coming up, efficiency is really important. So where are these sort of sweet spots for FANUC at the moment that are really excelling?
Yeah, so where we see sort of the most sales, if we look at that, I mean, it's sort of the proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the sales. We see a lot of robots being sold into the recycling market. Recycli was one of my case studies that I pulled together within the presentation, which is sort of quite apt really, because we are selling lots of robots into recycling, not only here in the UK but across Europe and globally. Recycli are sort of going from strength to strength there and actually being able to offer their solution across the world. I think the growth is phenomenal over the last couple of years. It's sort of hundreds of % growth for a company, which is amazing, and they will continue to go from strength to strength because they're led very well with a clear strategy for growth.
And that's a real success story, and we might just touch a bit more on that shortly. But other markets then that you're really sort of sensing going forward that are going to be big for you?
You kind of almost look at the existing markets, the automotive. They can't stand still. They can't, and they have, in honesty, over the last couple of years, stood still in regards the growth and the swap out of robots or the new models they're bringing online. So, for example, automotive would be one that will continue to grow. We see food and beverage increasing dramatically.
That'll please Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we see customer orders on a regular weekly basis for food and beverage, which is really good because it's something we've worked quite hard on over the last few years. The last 10 years, I should say, in terms of engaging for them to use automation. But it's always been a challenge with them from a cost and return on investment point of view.
I was about to say, why is that? Why is the fit? Is it because their machines are getting older? Is it because they're looking into new technology?
I think where the challenge has always been within food and beverage is that obviously you can work in that middle sector within their production. So raw foods and primary foods, as we call it, quite difficult because you obviously need to maintain cleanliness and hygiene levels in the right way. You need to have the right equipment that's been accredited and specified and certified in the right way to ensure you can work in those kind of that sort of that part of the production. But we've also then worked at the other end, the palletising end, the putting the boxes of product onto pallets. The bit we're seeing now, which has got quite a lot of growth, is obviously in the secondary packaging. So where we can use robots or regular robots for work and sort of picking up packaged products and putting them into boxes, and also now a lot of movement in terms of actually customers coming to us wanting to put boxes onto pallets, but actually smaller scale installations. So using cobots, for example, and at a slower speed, admittedly, but using smaller installations to do that.
Yeah, on your panel, it's quite interesting. You discussed the power of partnerships, and I think that's important in all walks of life. But It's got to be important here at FANUC. You're producing circa 10,000 robots a month. You can't install turnkeys on all those robots, can you?
No, absolutely not. So, yeah, partnerships are absolutely key to our business globally. Whether it's a partnership with a global OEM automotive manufacturer, right down to a guy that's buying one robot a year, you'd still classify that as a partnership because you're working with them to deliver an automation solution to their end customer. It's vital we can provide that same level of support, whether it's a guy in his shed almost, all the way through to a global automotive buying thousands of robots every year.
Oliver, thank you very much for joining us. Now, coming up very shortly, in fact, straight over to these guys, building a turnkey system with Ben Edwards. Just to remind you, we will be streaming throughout the day for the rest of the day, and at 12:30 we'll have another discussion like this, a panel discussion where we're going to try and get some attendees to the event to actually come and join us and give us their opinions on UK manufacturing and automation. But of course, I cannot go over to Lindsay without saying you should be coming here to Coventry this week, Anstey Park, to the FANUC UK Open House. As for now, thank you very much, guys. And Oliver's shot off. I'm going to go over to Lindsay, who's on stage.
I can see lots of coffees to keep you all going through the day. So next up, before I actually introduce the next guest, after Ben's discussion, we will have a panel discussion. We've got Tom Boucher, Ben, Kevin and Stuart Whitehead who are going to be doing a panel discussion. Again, your chance to get involved. Thank you for your questions online as well. So please, we want this event as interactive as possible. So keep those messages coming in. So I'd like to welcome onto the stage Ben Edwards, who's going to be talking about building a turnkey system. Thank you, Ben.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the FANUC UK Open House 2022. As I've been introduced, my name is Ben Edwards. I'm a project manager here, working for the engineering department within FANUC UK. And today I'm going to talk about building a turnkey system, is what we do within the engineering department. So what I'd like to just introduce is the engineering department today, and just showcase some of our abilities that we have and give you some examples of the systems that we've actually done in the past. I'm going to talk about the start of the automation journey that we take all our customers on from their initial inquiry stage. I'm going to talk very briefly about our overall overriding project process and the philosophy that we take with every system that we take on board. Talk about the project kickoff and our design capabilities. Then I'm going to talk about the de-risking elements, the DFMEA and the FDS that we conduct on all of our systems. And then I'm going to introduce how we do our build and commissioning here at FANUC UK, our buy-off and documentation. So FANUC UK and our engineering department, we're here to support the sale of FANUC products, providing a fully engineered turnkey system. It's very important that it's the FANUC product. We're not there as a general system integrator, we are there to support the sale of this fantastic product. So our resource and capabilities, we do proposal and concept works for every inquiry that comes through, whether that's just a 2D or 3D simulation, using our softwares, or using our RoboGuide simulation to do a cycle time analysis or throughput analysis, or how we would manipulate a part through any given process. In-house, we have our own controls design and electrical panel build capabilities. And then on our shop floor, in the other area, we can do our mechanical and electrical assemblies. We commission every system that we do on site here. We might not be able to fully commission it, but what we can commission, we do it here. And we invite our customers in for a buy-off, and then we do a final buy-off at the customer site as well. So at FANUC, we are adaptable to any industry or application. We aren't just specifically in one industry. We've done work in the battery and electrification industries. There's an example of our robots being used to do plate stacking for battery builds. Product assembly, again, using a range of our robotics, our vision processors to assemble products for our customer. MIG welding and TIG welding applications. Over the years, we've done a vast range of those. Again, using proprietary equipment from welding suppliers and building it into a full turnkey system. Machine tending, quite big at the moment. Whether it's a FANUC robo drill or a different product, we can machine tend. We use our robotics on a rail to pick and orientate a part and feed those into any given machine. Spot welding, another big industry. We've done a lot of spot welding applications over the years, and that's just one example. And palletizing. Over the years, again, we've done a vast range of palletizing, whether that's in the construction industry, concrete industry, tiles, and beer kegs. So the start of the automation journey. Any inquiry that we receive in, there's usually a FANUC representative that visits the customer site or contacts the customer. And it's either a salesman, a project manager, a project engineer, controls engineer. And we go there and we introduce ourselves. We need to understand their current levels of automation. Now, they may be brand new to automation or very experienced in automation. And we tailor our response and our inquiry and our proposal to that. It's very important that we gather the right information. Are we doing products or products? How many variants are going to go through these production lines? What's the budget and payback that the customer is expecting? Are there standards and specifications given in these inquiries? Quite at the moment, it's a big range of difference between we get very simplified specifications or very detailed specifications. We can have specifications as long as 100 pages with built-in other specifications, or it can just be as simple as a PowerPoint presentation. Does the system need to be future-proof? We have to tailor our design to be adaptable, removable, interchangeable. And what is the throughput and the cycle time required? And we can use our RoboGuide software to actually do a throughput simulation. Are there any lessons learned from previous automation? Why have they came to us? Do they not like their old previous supplier? Did they want to do things differently this time? And then what is their expectation on timeline? Which is quite a big thing at the moment. In our industry, we are suffering from lead time issues, but we need to. And then from there, we go through a concept and proposal stage, 2D and 3D, and then a formal quotation at the end. So when we get a project received, a purchase order, we go through initialization stage of any project. And that is an internal handover process from our sales team to the engineering department. And internally, we have a project kickoff meeting. We also do that with the customer. We usually visit the customer site, or we invite them into FANUC UK to discuss the project further. During the execution stage, we initialize a baseline plan, cost and scope. We have our internal project reviews and design reviews, and then we go through a formal process of actually getting these systems design proved out and approved by the customer. Customers come to us with changes all the time. We have a POA system management to manage those changes, whether it's a cost, timing, or a different product being added to the system. As we said before, we do all our build and commissioning in-house, so we invite the customers in to do a functional buy-off. And then once that's been bought off, we will take that to site and recommission and rebuild. We then issue all our documentation for CE and UKCA marking, any technical files that we need to give them as well, and PM schedules, maintenance manuals, recommended spares. And throughout that process, we're doing a monitoring control, monitoring the timeline, monitoring the costs, and monitoring that we are meeting the customer's expectations. Once it's all signed off, we do a handover to our PTS department, but within the engineering department, we're on hand to support our systems going forward for at least 6 to 2 years, and we are usually the first point of call. And then internally, we have a closeout meeting. So the project kickoff, we do these face-to-face. We don't like to do these over Teams. We tend to bring the customer in, or we tend to visit the customer site, and we reaffirm the basic outline of the proposal, the scope of the proposal, because some of these quotations could be 6-month-old, year-old, even 2 years old, and we've had to renew those slightly, and we just need to realign everyone. A detailed layout will then be produced, and the 3D concepts of the whole cell will be undertaken. From there, we will go through a layout approval and 3D concept approval. Again, this is not to trick our customers into the fact that they've signed it off. It is our responsibility to still make these systems work and the concepts work, but we like to formally communicate that to them to make sure that they're on board with what we're doing. One of our de-risking elements is design failure mode effect analysis, or DFMEA for short. And that is a systematic process that we take on every component within our system and process within our system to make sure that we are actually error-proofing it as best as we can. So the areas of the system and operation, what could go wrong and its effects to the production line. Does it stop the line? Does it cause a fault on the HMI? or does it just require some maintenance? What could be the cause of that? And how can we design and prevent or detect? And then are there any further actions for our customer to take? Preventative maintenance, for example. And for every system, we undertake that process and we share that with our customer. Once the general approvals have been done, we can then write a functional design specification. So what is the scope of the system? Layout and content overview. So what does it involve? The key components within that system. The safety functionality. The safety matrix details and how it would actually operate, what interlocks are there, and how does the cell function from a safety point of view. Process details. Robot going from A to B to C, and to finally put the part down. POCIO, in-process verification. So how are we proving that the process has been done correctly? These are all the things that we take our customer through, and in this document it's formalized. Rejects, inspection, breakdown recovery, they're all things that we try to detail as best as we can in this functional design specification. So build and commission. So once it's all been designed, we've procured it, we've manufactured everything. All our automation cells are built on our factory shop floor there. Electrical build and testing, we can build our own electrical panels, we do our own field testing and our safety testing as well. And we invite our customers in to see that process from day one to the finished product and to buy off. Robot and software commissioning, again in-house, we have our project engineers that are systemic in robot programming and mechanical and electrical commissioning, and then our controls engineers that can write PLC code and commission the line. Safety checks and prove out on factory acceptance. On the factory acceptance, we invite the customer in, and that might be half an hour factory acceptance, it might be a whole day factory acceptance, sometimes a week we've had in certain industries. But once that process has been done off and signed, we can pack and ship our assembly products in the system. Once we've taken it to site, we unpack it all, and we would go through a system rebuild and a recommissioning, and that is where product is put through the line, maybe for the first time, but put through a rate that we can actually, any errors that we can find, we can deal with and foolproof out. We then go through another acceptance process of getting the customer to sign it off. From there, we can issue the UKCA and the CE mark. UKCA coming into force next January, so we're all prepared for that. The technical file is then handed over to our customer, and that would include the 3D models, user manuals, breakdown assistance, and any important details for the system. And then we'll go through our project closeout, and then our warranty support through either our PTS department or our project department as well. So that was a very brief overview of our systems capability here at FANUC UK. I'd like to say thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to speak to me later.
Any questions? What I may do then is, if there's no questions right now, we're going to do the panel discussion, and Ben, you'll be part of that. So let's welcome onto the stage for the next section, which is quite exciting, and this is where we do want you to get involved. Everyone here, and I know it myself, sometimes you're sitting there and you're thinking, I do have a question, and I don't always want to ask it. This is your opportunity. I know you've asked a few questions. That's what it's all about. That's what we're here for. So this is your time and chance to get involved. So could I welcome onto the stage, I think he's at the back in the room over there. So it's Tom Boucher from FANUC UK, Kevin Holloway from the MTA, and also Stuart Whitehead from Jefferson. If you are watching online as well, at 12:30, we'll be taking you, we'll be doing a talk from MTDCNC and a tour around the facility too. So welcome onto the stage. I will ask you the same questions. If you could just introduce yourself and explain kind of like why you're here and what you're going to bring to this discussion as well. Maybe, Ben, you can just start. I know we know who you are, but if you can just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ben Edwards. I'm a project manager here at FANUC UK. I have a broad outlook on the UK manufacturing outlook for the whole of the UK. We take on turnkey systems within FANUC. So yeah, we understand the inquiries that we're getting and what businesses are thriving and which ones need a little bit more of a push.
Tom Boucher from FANUC, Managing Director both here in the UK and in FANUC Ireland. So all of the FANUC product comes under me, the robots, RoboShot, drill cut, all of the machines we do and all of the projects we do come under my control.
Hi, afternoon, my name is Stuart Whitehead. I'm the founder of the online news platform Jefferson, co-founder with MTD, of the Factory Now initiative, co-host with Joe Reynolds of MTD of the Great British Manufacturing podcast.
Hello, Kevin Holloway from the Manufacturing Technologies Association. So our role is to ensure that new technology, new provision is made aware of for our membership and for the engineering sector per se.
Just to kickstart this off as well, the outlook of UK manufacturing, what are you seeing happening right here, right now?
There's a lot of unreported, very positive news. We've seen this week, there's obviously issues with British Volt, there's challenges with LEVC across the road from here, but there's also been probably 6, 7 major announcements, new factories are being built, jobs are being created, export successes, and for whatever reason, it gets lost in the narrative, it doesn't get reported with as much relish as negative news does, and that's been going on for a number of years right across different news platforms. It's annoying. We're all trying to encourage the next generation of people to, children to look at engineering and manufacturing careers. If that's all they see, they're going to be disinclined to look at this as an industry. This is why Jefferson, Factory Now, MTD, what we try and do every single day on LinkedIn, Twitter, and other social media outlets is to present positive news because it's there. But unfortunately, some of the more established news networks choose not to report it.
And yourself?
Yeah, I would definitely concur with that. It's certainly a much more of a positive attitude that is coming from our membership and from engineering per se. We do have to exercise some caution, and it's right that companies are exercising that caution. The state of the economy is not where we need it to be, but the forecasting numbers, we need to sort of take stock of that and rest on the fact that, it is a good outlook for the UK and the opportunity to do things much better than we are.
I think I agree. I think every customer I see at the moment is very positive about the future for various reasons. I think there's room for us to improve, but what we've got to always remember is how good we are. Sometimes, as Stuart was saying, it's just the negative news. We do an awful lot of stuff very well in this country, and we need to get that out there more. We need to make sure that people don't see automation, don't see technology, don't see the future as an inhibitor. It should be there to actually make things easier for them, make things better for them, grow the country, grow our productivity. So what we need to do, as we said about, if a company closes, they're all over it. If a company opens, it's, you've got to wait until you're going to close before you get on the news. So what we need to do is make sure we start promoting the good news more than the bad news, really start getting out there. And there is a huge amount of positive in this country. Wherever you go, everything is good. I mean, sometimes I agree that the problem we're going from good to great is because you're good. I do agree with that a little bit. Being good is okay. We should push forward to get to great. But we can do, we will do. We do have every tool available to us in this country to get there.
Yeah, I think I'll just concur with the same, to be fair. You see in the mainstream media the impacts from job losses or closing down or funding not being given. But there are large projects out there for automation that require robotics, require robo-shots and robo-drills. And there is success stories, but they just don't make it into the mainstream media, and that's where Stuart and the MTC come in to try and promote that. And I see Stuart on LinkedIn every other day. People are criticising for not promoting the bad news. It's ridiculous, and there are fantastic stories out there, and we need to promote that more in Britain, definitely.
There's a lot of work happening within the catapult centres around emerging technology, emerging capability, and it's important that we embrace that on a collaborative way. That we take that sort of idea and turn it into a full industrialised sort of option for the future of the business.
We've got a question.
It's me again, sorry. Tom, I suppose I'll direct this one to you. From my experience, end users, when I've been talking to them about CapEx projects and return on investment, they get quite twitchy if it goes beyond the 18 to 24-month payback. Do you see that trend changing more in line with sort of mainland Europe where 5-year payback is acceptable, or do you think we just need to do a better job of a quicker return on investment?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the return on investment is lower than people think it is. People still think it is 5+ years. It's not. It's 5 years down. 18 months up to 5 years is a reasonable figure to look at. And I think it's as I was saying earlier on, it is the C-suite people that we need to make aware of what that return on investment is and the time for that return on investment. If I talk to anybody about education, they think I'm talking about apprentices and graduate engineers or whatever. I'm not actually, I'm talking about them. We do have to, if you don't understand what the return on investment is, if you don't understand what the increase in your productivity could be, if you don't understand where technology can take you, you're not going to invest in it. So we need to start at the top, and that's what part of this is today, and that we've been doing for the last couple of years, is to get lots of different people in to explain that from lots of different points of view. But I think, yeah, we are starting to look at a more realistic return on investment time. I think people are starting to see that you can't say you need to have everything back in under a year. It's just not going to happen. But that 2 years is feasible if you do it the right way. You can use some technology. And people are now starting to look at the return on, if they're looking at what they want to automate, people are now looking at where the return on investment is, rather than getting rid of just their most arduous process, because that's not always the right way to approach automation. What you should do is look at where's that return on investment, where can I quickly see that payback, where can I get everybody on board with it that is the right way to go, and then see the positive gain. Start doing the thing that you wanted to get rid of further down the line once everybody's comfortable with it. Don't start there.
One of the questions that sort of we get asked as the MTA on quite a regular basis is access to supply chains for emerging sectors. So if we take the space sector, for example, with organisations launching satellites and sort of, I've had a lot of noise around, well, how do I enter that? How do I get involved with it? How do I sort of work with it? And I think it's important for us to make sure that happens for all size organisations in the engineering sector to allow that to sort of flourish and grow.
Any questions? Because I'm seeing a lot of brands here. I know we've got, I think, Kingsbury, we've got Rockwell, Mazak. You've all got questions from your side, your end of things. So please think of anything that you're thinking, actually, this is my chance. I'm going to ask you, Stuart, what can you see can change? What can we see? What would you like to see change? And is there a route of change?
I'd like the government to take manufacturing seriously for the first time. It's not a political point. We don't do politics, we don't do Brexit or anything, or any of our channels, but you see what happens with the market reacts to a Liz Truss. You're making announcements with the mini budget and so forth. Within 72 hours, that policy has changed. Manufacturing doesn't have that immediate feedback into central government. I don't think they understand it. And we've had on the podcast people like Kwasi Kwarteng on in the past, and Lee Hopley, previous industry minister. They are very enthusiastic. They want to be, they want to be photographed and celebrate success. We get that, we understand that. But there's been an online campaign for several months now about a dedicated minister for manufacturing. I think it's a valid argument. Makes sense. We see what people like Ben Houchin do in the Tees Valley and Mr. Street locally. I think that tends to work well. Having that, they seem to have the finger on the pulse in terms of what is going on. We've seen announcements with, the last couple of weeks with the electric Mini moving from Cali to China. The government now, the government came back and said we didn't know anything about it. It was a surprise. Well, it shouldn't be a surprise because BMW are one of the biggest employers in the UK. So if they don't know what's going on there, do they know what's going on with SMEs and larger SMEs and so forth? So that's, I'll get off my soapbox, but that's what I'd like to see, a more understanding and more integration between government, both central and local, and industry, because 2.5 million people are employed in the manufacturing sector.
I'm going to ask all of you that question. Actually, what would you like to see change massively?
I think, for me, access to technology. I think it can become a little bit insular. It can become a little bit restricted. Organisations sometimes, I'm not saying all organisations, see the MTC, the MRC, Warwick Manufacturing Group, Catapult Centres per se, and see these as massive research organisations, and sometimes the feedback is there is no way that we're big enough or sort of robust enough to get involved with anything like that. For me, I'd like to see that change a little bit, is that we encourage more of that public money to be spent on research projects that make a difference to the manufacturing sector.
I think I'd like the government to actually have a strategy rather than just the word strategy. They put it in a lot of places, but I'm not sure if they actually have a strategy. I think they do need to engage with the wider audience and understand what is going on. They need to look at it from a manufacturer's point of view, the academic point of view, every point of view they need to get it involved, and they don't always join the dots up. I think they need to, if manufacturing is 9% of our GDP, they need to stop treating it as 9%, treat it as what it could be, not what it actually is, and let's grow it to where it needs to be. I think engagement with the government over, and I shouldn't be getting political, but engagement with the government over the last few years has been problematic, I guess. So they do need to actually get in and not just have the photo opportunities, not just when there is a big place opening up, get in there on a day-to-day basis and understand what it is, what it can be, where it could take us. We have to manufacture, so make a strategy, not just spell it.
I'd like the general public to understand automation a little bit better, because it's reported constantly that automation is taking people's jobs, and there's actually a lot of studies out there that show quite the opposite. Yes, it may take a direct job, but that job is transferred into logistics, into background tasks, and in the mainstream media you see it all the time, 150 jobs lost because of automation, publications within newspapers, more jobs lost because of automation. And it's not the case. You only have to look at the Netherlands and Germany to see that their levels of automation are far superior to ours, and that their job losses and people out of jobs is a lot lower as well. So, yeah, general public's change.
Question.
Is that on?
Yeah, it's on now.
I will get on a bit of a soapbox, and I'm talking about all politicians. I don't care what colour they are. I think there's a bit of a problem in this country. One is us in manufacturing. We don't shout enough about it. I do a lot of work in Germany. You'll go into a German train station, you'll see an advert for a Mazak. You ever seen one of them in the London train station? I use that as example because that's the last one I saw.
Hopefully you see one for a FANUC as well.
Yeah.
There's lots of them in there. Look for the yellow one.
Perception of manufacturing. The other problem is politicians. Politicians think, I think, luckily, 12 months ahead. They don't think strategy like manufacturing does tend to take longer.
Absolutely.
And none of them understand it, whether they're Labour, Liberal, monster raving loony. The other thing is the general people in this country. If your son or daughter came home, and I'm talking about the majority of people, and said, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a manufacturing engineer, I know which one most people in this country would say, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer, because they don't understand what manufacturing is. So until we get out there as an industry and start pushing ourselves, politics is a very difficult thing. I think we all understand that, and I don't think many of us actually trust most politicians, in all honesty. So some of it we've got to do, but the government has got to have a long-term strategy, almost a strategy that crosses over between the change of governments. And it's not only that, environmental issues fall into the same category there as well, because you can't do these things in 5-year cycles.
Yep.
You've got to do it over a longer time. I don't know how you do that, because I'm just Nick Ramus.
Well, I think part of it goes back to the same reasoning as the return on investment and educating the C-suite people. Is if they think in that 3 or 4 years CEO US cycle, they're never going to invest because they don't want to make the next guy look good. And we have to have exactly the same thing with the politicians. They do need to look at a longer term legacy. I genuinely don't know how you do it, but the only way that I can see to do it is they do have various cross-party committees, certainly on some of the base stuff and everything else. And I think it needs to get driven by that so that it can look like it is coming cross-party, and this is for the good of the UK, not of the good of my political colour or my four-year cycle. So yes, we do need to do it, but that's the only way I can see to do it.
I think a ministry for manufacturing is a vital thing in that. And one other thing, the last thing I'm going to say is we have a little bit of a problem in this country, and I see it in my industry particularly, and I'm sure everyone else in manufacturers, the loss of the apprenticeship. We're shoving loads of graduates out, and I'm not knocking graduates, they've got a place in the world, but we've not got practical, that, you know, the old HND, the HNC, craft apprenticeship, like I suppose a lot of us have done in this room. And we've lost that middle bit. I can only use Germany because that's where I spend a lot of my time is. That ain't like that in Germany. You go into many of the big companies and they've got 30 or 40 of, I don't want to call them middle, but you know what I mean, the craft level, HND level. We just say, go to university, do a degree in football or something like that.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, a lot of the people that do go to university are very valuable to the country. You know, we said about investment, surely the government's big thing at the moment is we're going to get out this hole we're in because of growth. They seem to have done all the tax cuts, all the spending reviews, but, you know, austerity and all that. I haven't heard anything about growth.
No. I've got two brief things on that, sorry. One is, as FANUC, we're aiming at having 10% of our workforce here as apprentices, and we're pretty close to it at the moment. We will continue it. And I think if you look around here today, a lot of the people that are helping out are apprentices or former apprentices that have now carried on. And I think the other one we need to do is similar to what Germany does, is, and this is probably more for the education segment, but we need to protect that engineer status. We need to actually make it that it is seen. If you go to India, or engineer is seen as same or higher than doctor or everything else that's going on. So we do need to protect it a little bit and make sure that people see it for what it is, which is a valuable, viable career route.
I think just on STEM engagement, I think for several decades really, we've struggled. Middle-aged people like me, talking to other middle-aged people, be it parents or teachers, to encourage children to look at engineering and manufacturing career isn't working and hasn't worked for a long time. So why continue it? People like MTD are fantastic. Great video presentation. He goes on social media. Kids will make their own mind up. If they've got the content, they see facilities such as this. Who wouldn't be interested in an apprenticeship? There are apprenticeships being offered. BAE Systems, JCB yesterday, 150 apprentices and graduates are taking on. Lots of other companies. But a lot of these manufacturers are also struggling to fill some of the places. Some of the training providers are having issues to try and recruit 16, 17, 18-year-olds that may want to consider a career in engineering and manufacturing. So I think you're right. I think the onus is on manufacturing to explain and to advertise what a fantastic and wonderful career it is, not relying on teachers and parents to do it, go directly to the kids. They'll make their own mind up. They're very tech savvy. And similarly with the government, I don't think we can rely on them to do everything, or we've got to do it ourselves. And I think you're right, sometimes manufacturers are, the very best engineers and manufacturers I've ever met are also very modest. And sometimes that modesty can be a bit of an issue. We should be, not boastful, but we should be advertising, this is what we do, we're brilliant at this, and sometimes we're a bit reticent to do that, but we do need to be more bullish, I think.
Oh, you got a mic?
I don't know, BAE Systems or anybody else. But when I did my apprenticeship, virtually every engineering company, and I'm talking the SME world, had an apprentice. Might not have 20, might have 1, 2, what have you. How many SMEs have apprentices now? And that's probably, I'm always told, that's the biggest part of our industry is the SMEs. So it's great that the big companies are doing it, and they're doing it for self-interest, because we've got a labour shortage at the moment. Train your own, great idea. But until you get the SMEs doing it en masse, you ain't ever going to get enough people in.
I think a lot of them are, but you don't hear about it. I don't.
You could be right.
There's this company's Income Training and so forth, they'll put SMEs together, train apprentices en masse kind of thing for SMEs specifically. There's training colleges or units on site with manufacturers that I've been to see, and they work particularly well. So I don't disagree with you, but it is happening, and SMEs, the big issue they have sometimes is they put an awful lot of time in, they invest in that young person finishes the apprenticeship, and the attrition can be an issue because they're having to start again, even though they funded that training. So, which could possibly be an issue why to dissuade SMEs to invest in that. But even despite that, they carry on and they do a fantastic job.
Yeah. That works. If all SMEs are doing it, that works. And that's the way it should work, is that if everybody does it, but it's got to be an uptake. And what they should do is, I think we made the mistake a number of years ago, is getting rid of first-class polytechnics to create them as third-class universities. We should have kept the polytechnics where they were and actually give people the hands-on experience.
I have a comment on a bit of education too. So Marco from Airbus. I've been trying to hire people for the last year or so. I think I've seen probably 1,000 CVs. A lot of people coming into trying to get a job. A lot of them roboticists. When you look at it into the detail, a lot of these students, a lot of them were just fresh out of school, and because at school they got some exposure to some robotics technologies. They all believe they're roboticists, right? So this is why they apply for the robotics job in companies like Airbus, for example. Something that Tom mentioned this morning is that according to the Federation, we just crossed 500,000 robots being shipped every year. This is where robotics is happening. It's not necessarily on making robots, it's basically manufacturing engineering, making robots do things for you, creating products. And yet, it feels like the great majority of students, they don't have the access to the training on these machines to actually come out of school ready to take on most of these jobs. And so I'm wondering whether it's about access, or is it about, I know that robotic services are a big deal for all the OEMs, so is it something that we need to get you guys and your KUKAs of the world and your ABBs of the world to be partnering with these institutions to provide this training, in some cases almost for free, or some sort of agreement with the university, or is there something else that we can do to get this knowledge and get this training into people to actually come out of school ready to take on some low-level jobs and grow from there?
I mean, I can only speak for FANUC here, but we are sponsoring a World Skills robot integration that is worldwide. We're sponsoring the World Skills UK to do it. They're engaging with all 16 to wherever year-old people to get involved in that. And that is then more of a practical use of current technology as opposed to a theoretical use on 20-year-old technology, which unfortunately some of our academic institutions don't have the latest technologies to use. So this is a way for us to happen. So again, and as I said earlier on with the Arkwright stuff, we believe in putting some money into it and sponsoring people through from school all the way through to the World Skills, so they come out of their university education to actually make them what we need to go into industry. And you're only going to do that on, it's not going to be if you go in there and work on a 20-year-old robot that is never going to be seen in the world again. You need to do that under current. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think manufacturers, OEMs, do have to get a bit more pragmatic and get in there and actually do it at the school age, engage people to show them how big an engineering career can be. It can be massive. It goes, there must be, I don't know how, there must be 1,000 different jobs within manufacturing, maybe more, I don't know, somebody might have a figure. But let's encourage them to do it and do it. But we need to get into the kids, as you said earlier on, not the teachers and the parents. Get directly to the kids, engage them, make them show how good a career it can be. Explain you started there. That I was an apprentice. Most of the people were an apprentice. You start there. It is a viable way to get. It doesn't stop you getting. I'm not going to say I'm at the top, but it doesn't stop you getting up certain way within a career path. It's not a blockage to a career path.
Last year, it was quite interesting, but there was a point made that in Germany, at events like our version of Mac, there were children able to visit these events. And that was kind of what we discussed. And we don't do that. That's, you know, what we put a lot of money into Mac and big exhibitions that happen throughout the year. But why not bring children or teens and the education sector into that as well? Because it's so like industry and then education. So that's quite interesting. And, you know, we did say this last year as well about kind of trying to glamorize engineering, but how do you do that? I talk to people about what I do, and, you know, sometimes people, okay, they don't understand. They switch off because they don't understand. But if they actually knew, then there could be a bit more change and understand it. We do have, just before we go to your question, there is a question I think that's coming online as well. So if someone can just read the question aloud and answer.
Everybody going to read it? What do you think manufacturers could do to encourage automation uptake in the UK? Is that the one?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Anybody?
For me, I think it's about sort of, and I think we touched on it earlier, you know, the sort of the cost or the perceived cost of automation in industry as to what it is and what it isn't, and to try to have a better understanding as to what that actually is, but more importantly, what benefit that offer when it comes to, you know, transformational change in a production process to offer higher productivity and higher cost savings. So for me, that would be something that we could do, is to sort of make that more easy to understand with regard to sort of automation uptake.
Yeah, I think more events like this, as Tom has previously covered today, allaying some of the myths that, you know, that robots cost jobs, where they don't. It's a multiplier of 3.5, I believe, from the presentation earlier. And showing some case studies, manufacturers are more inclined to listen to other manufacturers, not to any kind of establishments or government bodies, and get those case studies out. And again, people like MTD do a fantastic job of showcasing those and explaining what's happened, what the process was, the integration and the benefits. And and I think finally, the demystifying some of it, really. I think I learned something, you know, a couple of hours ago, where I thought return on investment, if I had to guess, probably about 4 or 5 years, and Tom, I think you're saying 18 months, and which we need to get that across, because I don't think that's most people's perception.
Hi there. I've got 4 teenage boys. One is graduated and has got a job now, or a graduate job, with PwC. The next one down looks like he's going to be going into property of some sort and wants to do university course that way. The next one down is in kind of just Xbox world at the moment. And the final one is actually probably going to be going into engineering. And he decided when he was 14 that DT was his thing and robotics was his thing. All these boys, except for the last one that's actually going to go into an engineering, most of them have to see what the pound sign is of the potential career they're going into. Now, yeah, that's very shallow, but that's the way it is. So, you know, at the moment, they know a property development manager earns X, Y, Z. They know, you know, a financial person at PwC or whatever is going to X, Y, Z. I don't think we monetize the potential careers. And I think if we did, we might, hopefully if the money was enough, but we would probably attract boys and girls to that. But I think the other thing as well is the point of attraction. We need to shift our thinking of how our younger generations are attracted to things. The way they operate is not through reading magazines or reading long paragraphs of text, and it's all about visualization. And even if and when I show my children FANUC robots or whatever, if they're static and they're not in their own situation of operation, they don't put 2 and 2 together. And what I would like to ask as a question, how do we encourage manufacturers within the food industry, medical industry, chemical industry, whatever industry, to open their doors and to show what is happening in their manufacturing facilities? because unless we do that, it is impossible for you to put 2 and 2 together as to exactly what automation looks like, how does it function, even give you any kind of understanding of, is that a job that I would like to work, because we don't see it enough. So inside the factory, when that came on BBC Two, brilliant. It was like, my God, you just hooked on it. It's fascinating. But even, you know, as PR people or whatever, you know, Nestle, Heinz, Cadbury's, they won't give you their story because they're locked down on their competitive edge being their automation or whatever they've evolved. So this is a secret, hidden industry, and that's why we're not attracting people, I believe. So what can we do about that? How can we get these manufacturers to open their doors and show people what is in their factory and what is happening?
Can I add to that?
Can
I just add to that? We are really trying. We are really trying. Yeah. How often do we have people and companies that we want to go to and we just can't? We're trying, honest.
Do you know what they say? Fred Dibner. Now, it's great having a great industrial past, but other youngsters are going to say that and see a bloke in a dirty boiler suit, and don't get me wrong, I'm a great fan of Fred, but that's not the image we're going to get them youngsters that you were talking about. Because kids, I've got a 22-year-old and I've got a 13-year-old, and I'll tell you, they're mercenary. They think in pounds, shillings and pence. They really do. And my son was going to go into engineering, and then he decided to do an 8-year degree in architecture. So it's not an easy course. And I said, why is that? He said, earn more money, Dad. That was the bottom line. And the little one wants to be a cage fighter, but that's another thing.
We've got cages here, you can get them on.
Yeah.
Go on, Stuart.
I was going to say that Make UK, I think a couple of months ago, had a National Manufacturing Day and encouraging manufacturers to open their doors. That was the inaugural event. Went particularly well. I'm sure that will be repeated. So, yeah, I understand that some manufacturers, as Lindsay said, are very loath to show you some of the secrets. But I'm sure there's processes within the factory. If they let Greg Wallace in, I'm sure they'll let Lindsay in anyway.
I'd love to.
Yeah, to get that across. And as you were saying, these kids, they're not going to read a magazine or read a book, and they want, you know, TikTok almost, you know, 90-second, 2 minutes. This is what they do. This is how it's done. And it's amazing when you see all these programs, the repair shop and inside the factory, how popular they are. And this perception still persists that we don't make anything. Well, we do. We have done for thousands of years, and we will continue to do so for millennia. So, you know, it's a collective responsibility, really, isn't it?
I think as well, we do, to stick up for manufacturers here, lots of them do it. But what they're doing it is at a local level, they'll deal with their local schools, or they'll deal with some, so the wider audience doesn't hear about it. So I think what we need to do is have a joined up picture of how we engage them. Because we can bring in 20 schools into here a year, but they're all going to be from Coventry, Nuneaton kind of areas. So we need to make it wider so that people outside of our immediate group can come and do it. But I think there's a huge amount of manufacturers that are willing to open their doors, do open their doors, but it's not publicised enough, it's not shown enough. And so I think we need to answer it by somehow getting, I don't know, a UK-wide database of things like this, schools that can come in here, events we can do, the world skills stuff we can do. Let's try and make it so that everybody knows about it rather than being a local secret and doesn't get outside further than that.
I would just totally agree with that, actually, Tom. My same age as Kirsty, so my son's 15, doing his GCSEs at the moment, and his school's one of few that actually offers engineering as a GCSE. It's an all-boys school, so I don't know, historically it's been very big on engineering, and they've got an engineering workshop at the school. You know, it's a very academic school in a lot of ways, but they really do push engineering as a career path to the boys at that school. And a number of my son's friends do visualise engineering as a career path. Yeah. And a big part of that is not just what the school offers, but where we live is where GSK are based. And also we've got Airbus nearby, big we're in Hertfordshire, so it's like a bit of a hub for all that. And they do come into the school, they do talk, GSK do, you know, workshops for them, but you're right, it's very much at a local level. So there is a bit of a, you know, there's a bit of this sort of networking and around where we live, where engineering is quite an attractive career path, but translating that across the country is a much harder task, and maybe that kind of sort of, you know, joined up network of friendly manufacturing companies which do exist, and the likes of FANUC and other OEMs that are supporting that might be a really good way to go. I think
Absolutely.
That's a really valid point.
Yeah, no, I think it has to be done. If you don't do it, we need to have a strategy as well. We need to have an OEM strategy on how to attract people in. It's easy for me to sit here and say government knows how to spell strategy but not do it, but we're not doing it either. We're kind of keeping too many secrets, or, you know, there is certain processes you wouldn't take people into, but there isn't a factory in the world you couldn't go into and see something that's generic. See it doing a robot doing something at a distance. You don't have to look at the close-up process and try and to be fair, most young people that are going in, school-age people, they're not really going to steal the technology and go anywhere. You know, we do have to be a bit more open about it.
Maybe we look at the schools then. Rather than pushing it via the manufacturers trying to open their doors and get more involved, if the schools are actually benefiting and these things are happening, which I didn't know, and I actually only live an hour from Kate, maybe because the schools are very good now about promotion of what they're doing in the school, if we could get the network of schools together and to have their own Facebook page of engineering updates of what they're doing, what their facilities are, who's come in, snippets of what they've talked about, maybe that would drive it rather than from the manufacturer's end instead.
And I think, you know, we have to understand the perception of how we as mature engineers, if you like, deal with the younger generation or the future generation of engineers coming through. You mentioned the MAC exhibition. So you know, the education development zone there was the biggest we've had this year with regard to sort of taking in students. And what we need to do, I've done MAC for too many years, and there was always this perception about, oh, it's Students' Day, sort of hide all the pens, hide all the giveaways, because they're all going to disappear, sort of thing. This year, there was
out there and people interested in and wanting to come to see us.
I think part of that is getting the schools together so that schools do know what is around across a much wider region than just their local area. So we need to make that available. We also need to do what we try and do in here a lot of times when we're engaging with students, is use some of our current apprentices and younger graduates, because they're going to engage with those far more than they're going to engage with me or anybody on this panel. So let's make sure we're getting the right people to get the message across. Because if they can see a young engineer and where they see their path going, then they can visualise that path going forward as well. They hear it from me, they're thinking that's 50 years down the line, I don't care. So we need to make sure we're getting the right people to sell the right message. So I think that's vital, and I think world skills. I think we also need to use the MTA, we need to use BARA, we need to use all of the organisations to get together to let's try and grow the market, not grow my section of the market. Let's look at it as a big picture. Let's say we need to have however many people coming into manufacturing. How do we do that together? Let's everybody individually worry about their market share, but let's grow the market. I'd much rather have the same market share of a bigger market. So let's grow that market. And I think that's who we get to get the message across, is how we do that, I believe.
Okay. I think, is that everyone? Everyone, we'll answer the question or ask the question in a panel discussion on our discussions online. I used to work for a company, and we used to do TIE, theatre and education, and I would go out to schools and I would talk to multiple years, talk about the education. So maybe they were studying Shakespeare or something, and then we'd do that, and then we'd do a bit of a kind of role play with them. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's something where that school would absolutely love someone like, you know, myself, a student from the MTA, to go in and just, you know, during an assembly. That kind of thing. It's something as simple as that. Take parts, talk about robots. I mean, it's the funding of this, it's all these ideas, but it's actually putting that into play. And I think that for me was a great connection with people to learn about that. So really, essentially, we can learn from theatre and education, but, you know, manufacturing and education, make it a thing. It's just, it's something, it's quite exciting as well. So just putting it out there. Oh, we've got the message on the screen, so we'll answer that one and then we'll wrap it up because we've got, we'll go online to do some live panel discussions. If anyone wants to have a bit of a shout out online as well, then you can do and get involved. So we'll answer this question first and then we'll kind of close the show for lunch.
Okay, the question is, in the UK, what are we good at? We talk a lot about what we can do better, but what do we do well in the UK?
Niche manufacturing. I think sometimes we've been guilty of not scaling up, but in terms of, you know, the inventions, in terms of the innovations that the UK has been at the forefront of, it's been extraordinary, really. And just read what we're good at. We could be here a couple of hours, Lindsay, if we talk about what we're good at. Yeah, I mean, it's very easy. We've talked, you know, a few things about what we're not good at. We're not good at promoting. We're not good at doing this. We're not good at doing that. But, you know, the UK leads the field in so many areas. And if it was another country, we'd know about it because they'd be talking about it. There'd be you know, advertising, like you were saying before, in Germany. And we don't do it. And we just need to be less civilized, possibly, and a bit more bullish, and learn from our American friends and start shouting about what we do, because we're doing an awful lot.
Right. Okay.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Lindsay, can I just say, I think
Absolutely.
maybe I've given off the wrong impression earlier. We do most things very, very well. Just saying we could do them better doesn't mean we're not doing them well at the moment. We are doing them very well. And I think maybe the only thing we don't do well is have a joined up picture of where we want to get to. If we could get everybody together to get that joined up picture, that we can bring children in, we can bring OEMs in, we can bring everybody in. We've got great innovators in this country. We've got great engineers. We've got great everything. Let's get that joined up picture, a strategy to make sure that we take it from where it is now to where it could be.
And that's what events like this are all about as well.
Yeah.
Big round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. If you want to get involved with the MTDCNC, they're going to be doing a bit of a live topic discussion, kind of like this, but over there online. Also, half an hour after that as well, if you are watching online, we're going to take you on a tour, so it's at 1 o'clock around the whole facility. So you're not going to miss out on a thing. Everyone else here, lunch will be served shortly.
Thank you very much, Lindsay, and of course all of the guests there. Some really interesting points. We are the anchor